Washington State, with its rugged coastlines, dense forests, and misty shores, is home to some of the most haunted lighthouses in the United States. These towering beacons, once vital for guiding sailors through treacherous waters, now stand as silent sentinels to the past, harboring tales of tragedy, mystery, and the supernatural. From the graveyard of the Pacific to the serene shores of Puget Sound. Here are 25 of Washington's most haunted lighthouses, where the spirits of former keepers and sailors are said to still linger. Cape Disappointment Lighthouse stands at the southern tip of the Long Beach Peninsula in Ilwaco, Washington, a sentinel perched where the Columbia River meets the Pacific Ocean. Constructed in 1856, it holds the distinction of being the oldest operating lighthouse on the West Coast. Its white tower and red roof, a steadfast guide to sailors navigating the treacherous waters of the Columbia River bar. While its purpose has always been to ensure the safety of seafarers, the lighthouse has a reputation for harboring a different kind of presence, one that lingers long after the light has swept across the waves. Over the years, visitors and staff have reported encounters with unexplained phenomena, experiences that suggest Cape Disappointment is haunted by the spirits of former keepers and sailors who met tragic ends along the rocky coastline. The lighthouse's very name seems an ironic omen. Cape Disappointment earned its title from early explorers, yet the area is far more infamous for the countless shipwrecks that have occurred near its shores. The treacherous combination of shifting sands, strong currents, and sudden storms earned the nearby waters the nickname Graveyard of the Pacific. Many sailors perished here, their lives cut short by unpredictable tides or rocky shoals, and it is said that some of their spirits never left the coastline. Visitors often speak of feeling a heavy presence near the cliffs and the lighthouse itself, as though the souls of those lost at sea linger, unable to move on. Encounters with the unexplained begin with the lighthouse grounds. Guests strolling along the bluffs have reported hearing footsteps echoing behind them, though they are entirely alone. Others have recounted the feeling of being watched, a prickling sensation that grows stronger as they approach the tower. Shadowy figures are sometimes glimpsed at the edges of vision, quickly vanishing when confronted directly. These fleeting apparitions often take the form of sailors or lighthouse keepers, figures dressed in period clothing from the 19th century, moving with purpose yet silent, as though carrying out duties from a lifelong past. Inside the lighthouse, experiences grow even more chilling. Visitors climbing the spiral staircase to the lantern room have reported hearing soft, deliberate footsteps above or below their own, even when no one else is present. Doors and cabinets creak and rattle inexplicably, and some have felt sudden drops in temperature as they ascend the tower. The lantern room itself, with its panoramic view of the Columbia River bar, has a particularly eerie reputation. On foggy nights, when visibility is near zero and the roar of the surf dominates the senses, some have claimed to see ghostly figures pacing the observation deck or glimpsed shadows flickering across the walls, only to vanish when approached. The lighthouse keepers, who once lived on site in the keepers' quarters, are thought to be among the lingering spirits. These men and their families endured harsh conditions and long, lonely nights, ensuring the beacon remained lit. Many died in or near the lighthouse, whether from accidents, illness, or heartbreak, and some visitors report hearing faint voices, whispers, and even soft laughter that seems out of place amidst the stormy backdrop of the coastline. Housekeeping staff and volunteers who work in the preserved living quarters have noted objects subtly shifting, as if moved by unseen hands, and cold spots that persist even on warm summer days. The surrounding terrain adds to the lighthouse's spectral ambience. The jagged cliffs, windswept beaches, and dense evergreen forests of Cape Disappointment create an isolated environment that can intensify feelings of unease. Many who walk the coastal trails have reported sudden chills, inexplicable sounds, and fleeting glimpses of figures moving just beyond the tree line. On particularly foggy nights, the sound of the ocean is often accompanied by phantom footsteps or the faint creak of the lighthouse door swinging open, lending credence to the tales of lingering spirits. Photographers and paranormal enthusiasts have occasionally captured unexplained orbs of light in their images, further fueling speculation about supernatural activity at the site. Several notable legends surround the lighthouse. One tells of a keeper who fell to his death on the cliffs while maintaining the light during a fierce storm. Witnesses have claimed that, on stormy nights, a shadowy figure can be seen along the cliff edge, a silent sentinel braving the same winds and waves that claimed him over a century ago. Another story involves sailors lost in the treacherous waters near the lighthouse. Visitors sometimes report hearing the faint sounds of distress calls and splashing. Though the ocean appears calm and no one is in sight, these stories have been passed down through generations, intertwining fact and folklore, and they continue to shape the lighthouse's haunted reputation. Paranormal investigators who have explored Cape Disappointment Lighthouse note that the site is rich with environmental factors that may contribute to the eerie experience's strong winds, sudden temperature changes, and echoing cliff spot. Many occurrences remain unexplainable. Audio recordings sometimes pick up unexplained murmurs and tapping sounds, while infrared cameras have occasionally recorded shadowy figures moving independently of any human presence. Whether interpreted as residual energy from past tragedies or conscious spirits who continue to watch over the lighthouse and coastline, the reports are consistent. Something unseen remains present, silently guarding the Cape. Despite its haunted reputation, Cape Disappointment Lighthouse remains a beloved historic site. Tourists, history enthusiasts, and photographers continue to visit, drawn not only by its significance in maritime history but also by the sense of mystery that pervades the grounds. Many embrace the stories of lingering spirits as an integral part of the lighthouse's character, adding a haunting allure to the already dramatic landscape. Evening tours often leave visitors with a profound sense of connection to the past, an impression that the lighthouse is not merely a static monument but a living link to the lives, tragedies, and memories that it has witnessed over the centuries. North Head Lighthouse stands proudly on the rugged cliffs just north of Cape Disappointment, guarding the entrance to the Columbia River, where the history is formidable as the storm-lashed coastline on which it rests. Constructed in 1898, this lighthouse was built to provide better visibility for ships navigating the treacherous waters of the river's mouth, a place notorious for shipwrecks and sudden storms. Towering above the Pacific Ocean, the lighthouse has long served as a sentinel for mariners. Yet it is also a place where the veil between the present and the past seems unusually thin. Visitors and staff alike have reported experiences that suggest the lighthouse is haunted, a location where the spirits of former keepers continue their silent watch over the cliffs and waters. The first thing that strikes visitors is the lighthouse's isolated location. Standing atop a bluff with sheer drops to the ocean below, it is surrounded by dense evergreen forests and open expanses that are often shrouded in thick fog. The wind howls relentlessly across the cliffs, carrying with it the roar of the surf, and the atmosphere can feel otherworldly, especially on overcast or stormy days. It is this combination of natural beauty and isolation that seems to amplify the eerie sensations reported by those who spend time here. Cold spots, sudden drafts of icy air, and a pervasive sense of being observed are among the most common experiences described by visitors. Inside the lighthouse, the haunting becomes more tangible. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room is narrow and steep, echoing with each footstep. Guests often report hearing additional footsteps that do not match their own, echoing as if someone else is ascending or descending the tower alongside them. Some have described doors opening and closing without explanation, or the faint sound of voices and murmurs carrying from empty rooms. The keeper's quarters, preserved as they were in the late 19th century, are often described as having an unsettling energy, with some claiming to feel the presence of someone unseen watching over the space. Visitors have reported shadows moving just out of the corner of their eyes, disappearing when approached, and an overwhelming feeling of being accompanied by an invisible observer. The lighthouse's history provides context for these spectral accounts. Over the years, The isolated nature of North Head Lighthouse demanded long hours and relentless dedication from its keepers. Many lived alone, facing harsh winters, pounding waves, and the constant threat of maritime disaster. Accidents and illnesses were common, and several keepers met untimely deaths during their tenure. Some of these tragic stories have been woven into local legend, with accounts suggesting that the spirits of these men, devoted to their post even in death, continue to patrol the grounds and stairways of the lighthouse. Visitors often feel that the lighthouse is alive in a way that goes beyond its function as a navigational aid. Presence that is watchful, patient, and persistent. The surrounding cliffs and shoreline add to the haunting atmosphere. Dense fog can roll in suddenly, obscuring the view of the ocean and cliffs, and the winds can carry sounds in strange ways, amplifying the illusion of footsteps, whispers, or even faint cries from the water below. Some visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures moving along the cliff edge, seemingly unaware of their presence being observed. The interplay of natural elements, the fog, the wind, the crashing surf with these reported paranormal experiences makes North Head Lighthouse one of the most atmospheric and unsettling locations on the Washington coast. Several recurring tales illustrate the lighthouse's haunted reputation. One story tells of a former keeper who perished during a particularly violent winter storm, slipping on the icy steps of the lighthouse while trying to ensure the light remained lit. On nights when the wind howls and snow swirls across the cliffs, some claim to see a figure moving carefully along the stairwell or pacing the lantern room, carrying out the duties that once defined his life. Another account involves phantom lights appearing at unusual times, flickering in the lantern room or along the grounds. Despite the lighthouse being unlit and unstaffed, these lights are often interpreted as signals from spirits attempting to fulfill their roles or communicate with the living. Paranormal investigators who have explored North Head Lighthouse note that its unique location can contribute to unexplained phenomena. Sudden temperature drops, strange shadows, and faint noises are common in coastal environments, but many occurrences seem to defy natural explanation. Infrared cameras and audio recorders have captured fleeting figures, murmured voices, and unexplained movements in empty rooms. Whether these events are residual energy, echoes of past tragedies, or conscious spirits still performing their watch, the consistency and frequency of reports suggest that the lighthouse is more than simply a historical structure. Despite the eerie reputation, North Head Lighthouse remains a cherished landmark. Historians, photographers, and curious travelers continue to visit, drawn by its dramatic coastal setting and its storied past. Evening visits, particularly in fog or during storms, often leave visitors with a profound impression of the lighthouse as a living entity's walls, imbued with the memories and presence of those who once tended the light. Many embrace the haunted stories as part of the lighthouse's charm, adding a sense of mystery and history to the already stunning scenery. Grays Harbor Lighthouse rises majestically above the rugged coastline of Westport, Washington, a towering sentinel at 107 feet, making it the tallest lighthouse in the state. Built in 1898, it has guided countless ships safely through the treacherous waters of Grays Harbor. Yet its imposing height and historical significance are matched by a reputation steeped in mystery and ghostly legend. Over more than a century of operation, the lighthouse has witnessed numerous shipwrecks along the jagged coastline, claiming the lives of sailors and leaving a lingering sense of sorrow and unsettled energy. Visitors to the lighthouse often speak of unexplained phenomena, suggesting that the spirits of past keepers and mariners remain tethered to this historic beacon, continuing their watch over the harbor even in death. The first impression of Grays Harbor Lighthouse is its commanding presence. Standing on a bluff that overlooks the harbor and the Pacific Ocean beyond, the lighthouse is visible from miles away. Its white tower contrasting sharply against the dark, stormy skies that are so common along this part of the coast. The surrounding terrain is equally dramatic, with windswept cliffs, dense patches of forest, and sand dunes that shift with the tides. These natural elements lend a haunting ambience to the area, and when the fog rolls in, the lighthouse can appear as a ghostly figure emerging from the mist, setting the perfect stage for the paranormal experiences reported by visitors. Inside the lighthouse, the atmosphere grows even more unsettling. Visitors climbing the spiral staircase to the lantern room have reported hearing the faint tolling of bells that seem to have no source, echoing up the narrow stone walls in the dead of night. These phantom bells are often attributed to the spirits of those who once kept the light burning, performing their duties with meticulous care. The keepers' quarters, preserved to reflect their historical state, are said to be imbued with the lingering presence of past residents. Guests have reported objects moving on their own, doors opening and closing without explanation, and cold spots that suddenly appear in certain rooms, defying the otherwise temperate coastal climate. Shadows have been glimpsed flitting across the walls, often dressed in period clothing, suggesting the presence of keepers or sailors who perished while tending the lighthouse or navigating the dangerous harbor. The stories of tragedy and loss surrounding Grays Harbor Lighthouse contribute heavily to its haunted reputation. Shipwrecks were once common along this stretch of coastline, with ships running aground on hidden sandbars or being dashed against rocks during storms. Many sailors lost their lives here, and it is said that some of their spirits remain, wandering the lighthouse grounds or the surrounding cliffs. Witnesses have described seeing figures in maritime attire pacing the shoreline, staring out to sea, or vanishing when approached. Some visitors have even claimed to hear the distant cries and shouts of men caught in peril on the water, echoing faintly over the wind and surf as if replaying the tragic events of decades past. Several notable encounters have been reported over the years. One frequent account involves a figure in a long coat and sailor S-cap seen near the entrance to the lighthouse, who disappears when approached. Another involves mysterious footsteps climbing the tower staircase, synchronized with the sound of phantom bells, even when no one else is present. Photographers and paranormal enthusiasts have occasionally captured unexplained orbs of light and misty forms in their images, adding visual evidence to the many verbal accounts. Staff and guides report a consistent sense of being watched, a presence that is both protective and somber, as though the spirits of the lighthouse are guarding the very place where they once lived and worked. The lighthouse's external grounds are equally charged with eerie phenomena. The cliffs and dunes around Grays Harbor provide an atmospheric backdrop, with dense fog and gusting winds creating an environment where the line between the natural and the supernatural often feels blurred. Walkers along the bluff have reported sudden drops in temperature, fleeting shadows darting across the sand, and the faint ringing of bells carried on the wind. Some hikers have even claimed to see the silhouettes of men moving purposefully along the cliff edges, disappearing into the mist, leaving only the sound of their footsteps or the echo of their voices behind. The combination of environmental factors and the lighthouse's tragic history creates a unique energy that many describe as both unsettling and captivating. Paranormal investigations at Grays Harbor Lighthouse have documented various anomalies. Audio recordings have picked up low murmurs, whispers, and bell-like sounds with no identifiable source, while infrared cameras have captured figures moving through rooms where no one was present. Investigators often note that while some phenomena could be attributed to natural environmental factors, such as wind whistling through the tower or temperature fluctuations, the consistency and character of these experiences suggest a presence beyond the ordinary, whether these are residual echoes of past tragedies or conscious spirits maintaining their vigil. The stories all point to a lighthouse alive with history and memory. Despite its spectral reputation, Grays Harbor Lighthouse continues to attract visitors from near and far. History buffs, photographers, and thrill-seekers alike are drawn to the towering structure, eager to experience both its maritime significance and the eerie ambience that permeates its halls. Tours often leave guests with a profound sense of connection to the past, a feeling that the lighthouse is not merely a historical monument, but a living witness to the lives, hardships, and tragedies that unfolded in its shadow. Many visitors report leaving with stories of inexplicable occurrences, the faint ringing of phantom bells, or a fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure on the cliff's, memories that linger long after their visit. Point Wilson Lighthouse stands at the edge of Admiralty Inlet in Port Townsend, Washington, a stoic guardian overseeing one of the most treacherous maritime passages along the Pacific Northwest coast. Since its completion in 1914, the lighthouse has guided countless ships safely through the waters, leading to Puget Sound. Its bright beam cutting through fog and darkness to warn mariners of hidden shoals and rocky outcrops. Yet, beyond its vital function as a beacon, Point Wilson Lighthouse has earned a reputation that extends into the supernatural. Visitors and locals alike recount eerie experiences, from ghostly apparitions within the tower to unexplained flickering lights that dance across the surrounding landscape, suggesting that the lighthouse's history is imbued with more than the routine rhythms of maritime life. The lighthouse's location at the entrance to Admiralty Inlet is both beautiful and foreboding. Jagged rocks line the shoreline, and the waters churn with powerful currents, earning the area a reputation for shipwrecks long before the lighthouse was built. Fort Worden State Park sits nearby, a sprawling complex of historic military structures that adds to the region's mysterious atmosphere. The combination of the lighthouse, the rugged coast, and the historic fort creates an environment steeped in history and, according to many, lingering spirits. Fog frequently rolls in from the Pacific, enveloping the lighthouse and the surrounding cliffs in a thick, gray mist, heightening the sense of isolation and giving the perfect conditions for ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena. Inside the lighthouse, the atmosphere is thick with history and the sense of being watched. Visitors climbing the narrow spiral staircase report sudden chills, inexplicable drafts, and the sensation of someone unseen walking alongside them. Lights have been known to flicker without cause, and objects occasionally appear displaced, as if moved by invisible hands. Guests and staff alike have described seeing figures dressed in period clothing, sometimes appearing at the top of the stairs or along the walkway near the lantern room, only to vanish when approached. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of former lighthouse keepers, men and women who devoted their lives to maintaining the beacon and who may continue their watch even in death. The lighthouse's history is marked by both devotion and tragedy. Lighthouse keepers faced long, lonely shifts, often enduring harsh weather, pounding surf, and treacherous conditions to ensure that the light never went out. There were accidents, falls, and illnesses, and the weight of isolation took its toll on many who lived there. Stories passed down through generations tell of keepers who died in the tower or nearby cliffs, their dedication so strong that they linger as silent observers. Witnesses report seeing shadowy figures at night, pacing the floors, ascending the stairs, or standing at the lantern room, staring out over the water as though ensuring no ship will falter on the rocks below. The surrounding area adds to the lighthouse's haunting allure. Fort Worden State Park, with its abandoned barracks, artillery batteries, and concrete observation posts, creates an environment where the past feels palpably present. Visitors walking along the cliffs or exploring the fort's structures often hear sounds that cannot be explained: footsteps, faint voices, or the distant clang of metal that has long since corroded. Some hikers have reported seeing fleeting shadows move across the terrain, vanishing when approached, while others have experienced sudden drops in temperature or an overwhelming sense of unease in places where no one else is nearby. The interplay of history, isolation, and natural elements forms a perfect backdrop for tales of lingering spirits. Many accounts center around the lantern room itself. On stormy nights, visitors have reported seeing lights flicker from within the tower, though no one is present. Others describe the sensation of being closely observed while in the upper reaches of the lighthouse, with the hair on their necks standing on end and an inexplicable pressure in the air. Shadowy figures have been reported moving in and out of view near the light, seemingly going about tasks from a lifelong past. These encounters are often accompanied by an eerie silence or the distant roar of the surf, creating an atmosphere both beautiful and chilling. Paranormal investigators who have explored Point Wilson Lighthouse note a consistent pattern of phenomena. Electronic voice recordings have captured faint whispers and calls for help, while infrared cameras have documented shapes moving along the stairwells and lantern room, often with no apparent source. While environmental factors such as wind, fog, and echoing architecture can account for some occurrences, Many experiences remain unexplainable. The repeated sightings of shadowy figures, flickering lights, and unexplained noises suggest a presence that is both watchful and connected to the lighthouse's history. Despite its haunted reputation, Point Wilson Lighthouse remains a beloved and frequently visited landmark. Photographers, history enthusiasts, and ghost hunters alike are drawn to its towering presence and the stories that linger around it. Many visitors leave with a profound sense of connection to the past, feeling that the lighthouse is alive, not just as a navigational aid, but as a repository for memories, tragedies, and the devotion of those who once maintained its light. Night tours often leave guests with tales of flickering lights, whispered voices, and glimpses of ghostly figures moving silently through the tower. Experiences that reinforce the lighthouse's reputation as a haunted beacon. Cape Flattery Lighthouse perches on the rugged cliffs of Totuche Island, marking the northwesternmost point of the contiguous United States. Since it was first lit in 1857, this historic lighthouse has guided mariners safely through the turbulent waters of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, an area notorious for unpredictable currents, jagged rocks, and sudden storms. While its purpose has always been to ensure the safety of sailors, Cape Flattery Lighthouse has also earned a reputation for eerie phenomena and ghostly sightings. Visitors report hearing unexplained noises, seeing shadowy figures moving along the cliffs, and feeling a persistent sense of being watched, as if the spirits of past keepers and sailors continue their eternal vigil over the island and the surrounding waters. Totuche Island itself is isolated and formidable, accessible only by boat or helicopter. The lighthouse sits atop sheer cliffs, surrounded by jagged rocks and dense patches of vegetation, creating a natural fortress against the relentless Pacific winds. The isolation and dramatic landscape contribute to the lighthouse's spectral reputation, amplifying the sense of mystery and tension for those who visit. Thick fog frequently envelops the island, rolling in from the Strait of Juan de Fuca and reducing visibility to mere feet. The fog, combined with the howling wind and crashing waves, transforms the lighthouse into a haunting silhouette, perfectly suited for the ghost stories that have developed over decades. Inside the lighthouse, visitors report a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room, worn smooth by generations of keepers, creaks underfoot, yet many claim to hear additional footsteps that do not match their own. Unexplained cold spots appear in the otherwise temperate coastal air, and doors and cabinets have been known to open and close without human intervention. Some guests have glimpsed shadowy figures in period clothing lingering near the windows or along the stairwell, vanishing when approached. These apparitions are thought to be the spirits of former lighthouse keepers, men and women who spent long, lonely hours maintaining the beacon, often under harsh and dangerous conditions, and who may continue their duties even in death. The history of Cape Flattery Lighthouse is filled with dedication, hardship, and occasional tragedy. Lighthouse keepers endured isolation, relentless storms, and treacherous terrain as part of their daily routines. Supplies had to be brought by boat across the often turbulent waters, and communication with the mainland was limited. Accidents were not uncommon, and several keepers lost their lives while performing their duties, whether due to falls, illness, or the relentless elements. Local lore suggests that some of these spirits never left the island, bound by the responsibility of their watch or by unresolved ties to the lives they once led. Visitors often sense these lingering presences as a protective yet somber force within the lighthouse. The island and its surrounding waters add layers to the lighthouse's haunting ambience. Cliffs and rocky outcrops create echoes and shadows, while the constant roar of the ocean and the wail of the wind can sound like voices or distant cries. Hikers and explorers on the island's trails have reported feeling sudden chills, hearing footsteps behind them, and glimpsing figures that disappear when they turn to look. The natural environment, coupled with the history of shipwrecks and maritime peril, creates an eerie, almost otherworldly atmosphere that visitors cannot easily ignore. Several specific legends enhance the lighthouse's haunted reputation. One tells of a keeper who fell to his death on the cliffs during a violent storm, while trying to ensure the light remained functional. On stormy nights, some visitors claim to see a shadowy figure pacing near the lantern room or along the cliffs, a silent guardian performing duties from a century past. Others recount hearing voices or soft knocking sounds coming from the lighthouse itself, often synchronized with the movement of doors or furniture, as if invisible hands are tending the historic space. Phantom lights have also been reported, flickering along the pathways or in the windows of the lighthouse, sometimes interpreted as signals from spirits attempting to communicate with the living. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous unexplained occurrences at Cape Flattery Lighthouse. Audio recordings occasionally pick up faint whispers and murmurs, while infrared cameras capture shadows moving where no one is present. Environmental factors like fog, wind, and temperature fluctuations may explain some phenomena, but the consistency of reports over decades suggests something beyond the ordinary. Sightings of shadowy figures, cold spots, and the distant sound of footsteps all point to a lingering presence, one tied closely to the lighthouse's history and the lives of those who once maintained its light. Despite its reputation for ghostly encounters, Cape Flattery Lighthouse remains an important historic landmark and a popular destination for visitors. Photographers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike are drawn to its dramatic cliffs, panoramic views, and the mysteries that surround it. Many visitors leave with stories of sudden chills, fleeting glimpses of figures in the fog, or the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the lighthouse. These experiences become part of the lore, adding depth and intrigue to the lighthouse's storied history. Destruction Island Lighthouse rises from the rocky outcrops off the coast of the Olympic Peninsula near Forks, Washington, a solitary sentinel standing against the relentless forces of the Pacific Ocean. Constructed in 1891, this historic lighthouse was built to warn mariners of the treacherous waters and hidden reefs that surround the island. Its name, Destruction Island, is no exaggeration. Over the decades, countless ships have met their fate along these unforgiving shores, leaving behind stories of loss and tragedy. But beyond its vital role as a guide to sailors, the lighthouse has become infamous for reports of ghostly apparitions, strange lights, and unexplained phenomena. Visitors and locals alike believe the spirits of those who perished at sea may still linger, tethered to the island and the lighthouse that bore witness to their final moments. The island itself is stark and isolated. Waves crash violently against jagged rocks. Winds sweep across the cliffs, and fog often rolls in from the ocean, shrouding the lighthouse in an ethereal veil. The landscape is raw and untamed, with a sense of isolation that is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Even on calm days, the island exudes an atmosphere of anticipation, as though the sea itself carries echoes of past tragedies. Visitors report that the air feels charged, heavy with a presence that cannot be seen but can be felt, a subtle vibration beneath the sound of the surf and wind. Inside Destruction Island Lighthouse, the stories of haunting take on a more tangible form. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot. Yet many visitors claim to hear additional footsteps echoing along the walls, footsteps that do not match their own. Cold spots appear suddenly, chilling the skin despite the mild coastal temperatures, and doors and windows occasionally open or close on their own, sometimes with an accompanying creak that resonates through the tower. Some have reported seeing shadowy figures moving just out of the corner of their eyes, disappearing when looked at directly, while others describe fleeting glimpses of sailors in period clothing lingering near the windows or walking along the narrow walkway around the lantern room. Many believe these are the spirits of the lighthouse keepers or the mariners who lost their lives on the surrounding rocks, eternally bound to the island. The lighthouse's history is intertwined with human perseverance and tragedy. Keepers worked long, lonely hours, braving storms, rough seas, and isolation to ensure the light never went out. Accidents were frequent. Falls, illness, and even drownings claimed the lives of several keepers and their assistants. Their dedication was absolute, and local lore suggests that some of their spirits never left, continuing their watch from beyond the grave. Visitors often feel this lingering presence as both protective and somber, a sense that the lighthouse itself remains alive with the memories of those who tended it. The surrounding waters reinforce the island's haunted reputation. Destruction Island sits off the coast where powerful currents and hidden reefs make navigation treacherous. Shipwrecks were common, particularly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And some of the spirits reported on the island are believed to belong to the sailors who met their end on these jagged rocks. Witnesses on the island have recounted hearing distant cries and shouts, faintly carried over the roar of the ocean, as if replaying the last moments of doomed vessels. Shadowy figures have been spotted along the cliffs and beaches, sometimes silhouetted against the fog, vanishing before they can be approached. The combination of natural dangers, isolation, and human tragedy creates a deeply unsettling atmosphere that has captivated visitors for generations. One recurring tale involves a shipwreck during a fierce winter storm. Local legend says that the spirits of the sailors can still be seen walking along the shore on stormy nights, their figures illuminated briefly by flashes of lightning or the occasional beam of the lighthouse. Others have reported seeing lights flickering within the tower when the lighthouse itself is unlit, interpreted as the ghosts of keepers tending the lantern as they did in life. Some visitors even claim to hear the faint, rhythmic sound of footsteps climbing the spiral staircase, synchronized with the roar of waves crashing against the rocks below. These stories, passed down through generations, add to the enduring sense of mystery and suspense that surrounds Destruction Island Lighthouse. Paranormal investigators who have explored the lighthouse report a variety of phenomena. Audio devices often capture whispers, muffled cries, and strange knocking sounds, while infrared cameras sometimes record shadowy shapes moving where no one is present. Temperature anomalies, unexplained drafts, and the sensation of being watched are frequently noted, while environmental factors like wind, fog, and echoing architecture may account for some occurrences. Many experiences defy conventional explanation. The consistency and frequency of reports suggest that Destruction Island Lighthouse is more than just a historic structure. It is a place where the memories, emotions, and spirits of the past continue to linger. Despite its eerie reputation, the lighthouse remains a significant historical landmark and a destination for adventurous visitors. Photographers, historians, and ghost enthusiasts alike are drawn to its dramatic location. The turbulent beauty of the surrounding ocean, and the sense of mystery that permeates the island. Even brief visits often leave guests with stories of sudden chills, unexplained lights, or fleeting shadows, experiences that become part of the lighthouse's lore and add depth to its already rich history. Point No Point Lighthouse, established in 1879, stands as the oldest lighthouse on Puget Sound, guiding mariners through the sometimes treacherous waters of the northern Washington coast. Situated on a small peninsula in Hansville, the lighthouse is a quiet sentinel, overlooking a landscape of dense forests, rocky shores, and the vast expanse of the sound itself. While its primary purpose has always been to ensure the safety of passing ships, Point No Point Lighthouse has long been associated with eerie phenomena and ghostly legends. Visitors and locals alike report unexplained occurrences, from flickering lights within the tower to shadowy figures glimpsed along the grounds, giving the lighthouse an enduring reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the region. The lighthouse sits in a location that is both serene and foreboding. The surrounding forests are dense and quiet, and the shoreline is rugged, with driftwood-strewn beaches and jagged rocks extending into the water. Fog frequently rolls in from the sound, cloaking the lighthouse in a thick, gray mist and muffling the sounds of the ocean and nearby wildlife. This natural atmosphere amplifies the sense of isolation and sets the perfect stage for ghostly encounters. Visitors often describe an uncanny feeling as they approach the lighthouse, a mixture of awe and unease, as if the place itself is alive with memories of the past. Inside Point No Point Lighthouse, the stories of hauntings are particularly vivid. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room has been the site of countless reports of phantom footsteps, echoing in unison with the creaking of the old wooden steps. Some visitors claim to hear voices murmuring in empty rooms or soft knocks and taps. as if someone unseen is moving through the lighthouse. Cold spots have been reported on otherwise temperate days, and doors have been known to open and close, seemingly on their own. Guests have occasionally glimpsed figures in period clothing near the lantern room or along the stairway, vanishing when approached, as if the spirits of former lighthouse keepers continue their duties from beyond the grave. The lighthouse's history provides context for these haunting experiences. Built during a time when maritime navigation was perilous, the keepers at Point No Point faced long, isolated hours tending the light, often enduring harsh weather and treacherous conditions. Supplies had to be ferried across the water, and communication with the mainland was limited. Over the decades, several keepers suffered accidents, illness, or tragic deaths while on duty. Local legend holds that some of these spirits remain on the property, unable to leave their post, continuing to protect the waters and the ships passing through. The sense of vigilance and dedication that defined their lives seems to linger in the tower, felt by anyone who ventures inside. The surrounding area enhances the lighthouse's haunting ambience. Dense forests and quiet shores provide a natural sound barrier, making every crack of a branch or distant splash of water seem amplified. Visitors often describe hearing footsteps on the wooden boardwalks leading to the lighthouse, though they are alone. Some hikers report seeing fleeting shadows moving among the trees, disappearing when investigated. The interplay of natural isolation, historical significance, and tragic events creates an atmosphere where the ordinary can easily feel extraordinary, and where the boundary between the living and the spectral seems thin. Many visitors recount specific experiences that have become part of the lighthouse's lore. One frequently told tale involves a figure dressed in the clothing of a 19th century keeper, appearing at the top of the spiral staircase or peering out from the lantern room window. On nights when the fog is heavy, some witnesses report seeing lights flicker inside the tower, despite no active electrical source, often interpreted as the keeper tending to the beacon, as he once did. Others have reported hearing muffled voices or whispers, sometimes accompanied by the faint sound of footsteps pacing the upper floors. These encounters, though varied, consistently convey the presence of spirits connected to the lighthouse's long history of service and solitude. Paranormal investigators visiting Point No Point Lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual phenomena. Audio recordings sometimes capture faint whispers and murmurs, while infrared cameras have detected movements in empty rooms. Investigators also note sudden temperature drops, inexplicable drafts, and the sensation of being watched, especially near the lantern room and keeper's quarters. While some of these experiences could be explained by environmental factors such as wind, structural settling, or the acoustics of the tower, the regularity and consistency of reports suggest the presence of something beyond the ordinary, an echo of the lighthouse's storied past manifesting in the present. Despite its haunted reputation, Point No Point Lighthouse remains a cherished historical landmark and a popular destination for visitors. Photographers, historians, and ghost enthusiasts are drawn to the lighthouse not only for its architectural charm and breathtaking views of Puget Sound, but also for the stories and experiences that linger around it. Visitors often leave with vivid memories of unexplained lights, fleeting shadows, or the subtle sensation of another presence accompanying them through the tower. Experiences that become part of the lighthouse's enduring narrative. Bush Point Lighthouse, perched on the northern tip of Whidbey Island in Freeland, Washington, has served as a guiding light for mariners since its construction in 1894, for over a century. Its beacon has warned ships of the rocky shoreline and the treacherous waters of the Puget Sound, ensuring the safe passage of countless vessels. Yet beyond its practical purpose, Bush Point Lighthouse has developed a reputation steeped in mystery and ghostly tales. Visitors have reported cold spots that appear without warning, unexplained noises echoing through the tower, and fleeting apparitions of figures believed to be former keepers. The lighthouse's history, combined with its isolated location and the dense forests and misty shores surrounding it, has made it a magnet for those drawn to the paranormal. The lighthouse sits at the edge of a rugged peninsula, where the land meets the often turbulent waters of Puget Sound. The surrounding environment is wild and isolated, with thick forests that stretch inland and misty shores that seem to shift and change with the tides. Fog frequently blankets the area, muting sound and casting a ghostly veil over the landscape, creating an atmosphere ripe for eerie experiences. Visitors often note a profound sense of solitude when approaching the lighthouse, as if the natural surroundings amplify the feeling that the place is alive with memories from the past. The cliffs and beaches around the lighthouse provide a dramatic backdrop, with jagged rocks and waves crashing against the shore, adding to the tension and mystery. Inside Bush Point Lighthouse, the atmosphere is equally charged with a sense of the unexplained. The spiral staircase that leads to the lantern room has been the site of numerous reports of phantom footsteps, echoing unnaturally through the stone and wooden structure. Guests and caretakers have described hearing whispers or muffled voices in empty rooms, sometimes accompanied by the creaking of doors or the rustling of objects as if moved by unseen hands. Cold spots are a frequent occurrence, often felt as sudden chills that descend in particular areas of the tower, including the lantern room and keeper's quarters. Some witnesses have claimed to see shadowy figures, dressed in period clothing, moving silently along the hallways or near the windows, vanishing when approached. These apparitions are thought to be the spirits of lighthouse keepers who spent long, lonely hours tending the light and ensuring the safety of passing vessels. The history of Bush Point Lighthouse is marked by dedication, isolation, and occasional tragedy. Keepers and their assistants often endured harsh weather, relentless winds, and rough seas while performing their duties. Many lived on the lighthouse grounds for extended periods, isolated from family and community. With communication limited to infrequent deliveries and visits, accidents and illnesses were common, and some keepers lost their lives while performing their responsibilities. Local lore suggests that their spirits remain forever tied to the lighthouse they tended, continuing their watch even after death. Visitors often describe feeling an unspoken presence, a combination of vigilance and solemnity, as if the spirits are silently observing and protecting the place they once called home. The surrounding forests and shoreline amplify the lighthouse's eerie reputation. Dense stands of trees create a natural sound barrier, making the occasional groan of timber, the whisper of wind through the branches, or the distant roar of waves feel magnified and more sinister. Walkers along the shore have reported sudden chills, the sensation of being followed, and fleeting shadows disappearing into the mist. The natural isolation and the weight of the lighthouse's history combine to create an atmosphere in which the ordinary and the supernatural seem to blend seamlessly. Stories of ghostly activity at Bush Point Lighthouse are numerous and persistent. One common account involves a figure seen pacing the spiral staircase or lingering near the lantern room window, dressed in the uniform of a 19th century keeper. On foggy nights, some visitors report lights flickering in the tower, though the lighthouse may be unlit, interpreted as the ghostly keeper tending the lamp. Others recount hearing footsteps echoing in the halls or whispers that seem to emanate from nowhere, sometimes accompanied by the sudden movement of objects or doors. These experiences, while varied, consistently suggest the presence of lingering spirits connected to the lighthouse's history and duties. Paranormal investigations at Bush Point Lighthouse have documented many unexplained phenomena. Audio recordings sometimes capture whispers, murmurs, or soft knocking sounds, while infrared cameras occasionally detect movement in empty rooms. Sudden drops in temperature and inexplicable drafts are frequently reported, particularly in the upper floors of the tower. While some occurrences can be attributed to environmental factors such as wind, structural settling, or acoustics, the regularity and consistency of reported experiences suggest a presence that transcends the ordinary. The lighthouse is not only a historical structure, but a place where the memories, dedication, and lingering energy of past keepers continue to be felt. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Bush Point Lighthouse remains a treasured landmark and a point of fascination for visitors. Historians, photographers, and ghost enthusiasts alike are drawn to its dramatic setting, the historic structure, and the stories that surround it. Visitors often leave with vivid memories of cold spots, fleeting shadows, or unexplained sounds. experiences that become part of the lighthouse's enduring narrative and its mystique. Browns Point Lighthouse, established in 1887, rises atop a bluff overlooking Commencement Bay in Tacoma, Washington, a steadfast guardian of one of the region's busiest waterways. For more than a century, its light has guided mariners safely through the often treacherous waters of Puget Sound, warning of rocky shores and hidden shoals. The lighthouse is not only a vital aid to navigation, but also a repository of history, witnessing countless shipwrecks, heroic rescues, and the daily lives of the keepers who maintained its beam. Over the years, Browns Point Lighthouse has developed a reputation that extends beyond maritime safety. It is a place where ghostly sightings, strange sounds, and unexplained phenomena have been reported for generations, earning it a place among Washington's most haunted sites. Perched on a bluff, the lighthouse overlooks the sweeping waters of Commencement Bay. Framed by dense forests and rugged shorelines, the bluff itself is steep and windswept, and the surrounding terrain often produces howling gusts that carry the sound of the bay inland. Fog frequently rolls in from the water, enveloping the lighthouse in a thick, gray mist, muting all other sound except the crash of waves on the rocks below. This natural isolation contributes to the eerie atmosphere that visitors often report, heightening the sense that Browns Point Lighthouse is a place removed from ordinary time and space, where past and present seem to coexist. Inside the lighthouse, the air feels heavy with history and a sense of lingering presence. The narrow spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, yet many visitors report hearing additional footsteps echoing in unison. Footsteps that do not belong to anyone present. Cold spots manifest suddenly, chilling the skin despite the mild coastal climate. And doors and cabinets sometimes open and close without explanation. Shadowy figures have been seen moving along the stairs or near the windows, often dressed in period clothing reminiscent of the 19th and early 20th centuries. These apparitions are widely believed to be the spirits of former keepers, men and women who devoted their lives to maintaining the light and ensuring the safety of passing ships, sometimes under brutal weather conditions and prolonged isolation. The lighthouse's history is deeply intertwined with human perseverance and occasional tragedy. Keepers endured long, lonely hours, often in harsh weather, with limited supplies and irregular communication with the mainland. Many suffered illness or accidents while performing their duties, and some never returned from the rocky shores below. Shipwrecks were frequent along the bay, and the lighthouse's presence was a lifeline for countless sailors. Local legends suggest that some of those who died, both keepers and mariners, have never left, continuing their watch over the bay in spectral form. Visitors frequently describe sensing a watchful presence, a combination of vigilance and solemnity, as if unseen eyes are monitoring their every movement. The area surrounding Browns Point Lighthouse adds to its reputation for supernatural activity. Dense forests and cliffs create natural acoustics that amplify ordinary sounds into something uncanny. A branch snapping can sound like a footstep, and the roar of waves can resemble distant cries. Walkers along the bluff have reported seeing fleeting shadows among the trees, disappearing when approached, and sudden chills that seem to follow them along the trails. The interplay of historical tragedy and natural isolation creates an atmosphere where the ordinary can easily feel extraordinary, making the lighthouse a magnet for ghost hunters, historians, and curious visitors alike. Many specific tales of haunting have emerged over the decades. Some visitors report seeing ghostly figures at the top of the spiral staircase, moving slowly toward the lantern room, or peering out over the bay as though scanning the horizon for incoming ships. Others recount hearing disembodied voices calling out, sometimes in distress, sometimes issuing faint instructions or warnings. Flickering lights inside the tower, appearing when no electrical activity is present, are interpreted as the keepers tending the lamp in spirit. In some accounts, visitors have felt a sudden hand on their shoulder or sensed a presence behind them while exploring the upper levels, only to find the space empty upon turning. These consistent reports reinforce the perception that Browns Point Lighthouse is more than a historical structure, is a place where the past lingers vividly, Paranormal investigators have documented various phenomena within and around the lighthouse. Audio recordings have captured whispers and faint cries, while infrared cameras have picked up moving shadows where no living person is present. Sudden drops in temperature and inexplicable drafts are frequent, especially near the lantern room and keeper's quarters. While environmental factors, such as wind, the design of the structure, and acoustics, may account for some occurrences, the persistence and frequency of these experiences suggest the presence of something beyond the ordinary and enduring. Echo of the lighthouse's storied past. Despite its haunted reputation, Browns Point Lighthouse remains a cherished historical landmark. Visitors are drawn not only to its architectural charm and panoramic views of Commencement Bay, but also to the ghost stories that have accumulated over more than a century. Many leave with vivid memories of fleeting shadows, sudden chills, or strange lights, experiences that become part of the lighthouse's enduring narrative. Photographers and history enthusiasts capture the dramatic cliffs and turbulent waters, while paranormal seekers explore its tower and grounds in search of the inexplicable. Alki Point Lighthouse, standing at the entrance to Elliott Bay in Seattle, Washington, has been a guiding beacon for mariners since its completion in 1913. Perched on the rocky point, the lighthouse has long warned ships of the hazards of the bay, helping vessels navigate safely past the rocky shoreline and treacherous currents. While its functional role as a maritime guide is well known, Alki Point Lighthouse has also garnered a reputation for the unexplained. Visitors and locals alike report ghostly apparitions, flickering lights, and strange sounds, making it one of Seattle's most intriguing haunted sites. The combination of its historic presence, dramatic coastal setting, and proximity to Alki Beach, with its scenic views and lingering echoes of the past, has created an atmosphere where history and the supernatural seem to intertwine. The lighthouse itself is modest in size but commanding in its presence. Its white tower stands against the backdrop of the Puget Sound, with waves crashing against the rocky shore below. The surrounding environment adds to the haunting ambience. Fog often rolls in from the bay, shrouding the lighthouse in mist and muting sound, making each creak, gust of wind, or distant splash feel amplified. Visitors frequently report a sense of isolation even though the city lies nearby, a strange quiet that seems to exist only around the lighthouse itself. The cliffs and rocky shoreline create natural acoustics that can make ordinary sounds, such as the movement of the ocean or the call of seabirds, seem otherworldly. Inside the lighthouse, reports of paranormal activity are persistent. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room is a frequent sight of ghostly footsteps, echoing in sync with the steps of visitors, yet clearly belonging to no one present. Cold spots appear in the tower, sometimes localized near the lantern room or along the upper hallways, sending shivers down the spine. Doors and cabinets occasionally open or close on their own, sometimes with a soft creak that resonates through the narrow interior. Shadowy figures have been seen gliding along the walls or standing near windows, often dressed in the clothing styles of the early 20th century, disappearing when approached. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of former lighthouse keepers, men and women who dedicated their lives to tending the light and safeguarding the vessels of Elliott Bay. The lighthouse's history is filled with dedication, solitude, and occasional tragedy. Keepers were often isolated for long stretches, enduring harsh weather and maintaining the light under difficult conditions. Supplies were delivered sporadically, and communication with the mainland was limited, making the job both physically and mentally demanding. Accidents and sudden illnesses claimed the lives of several keepers over the years, and local legend holds that some never left, continuing their watch over the bay as spirits. Visitors often describe sensing a protective presence, a mixture of vigilance and solemnity, as if unseen eyes are observing their every move while maintaining the lighthouse's enduring mission. The surrounding area further intensifies the lighthouse's eerie reputation. Alki Beach, just a short distance away, has a rich history dating back to the early settlers of Seattle, and the shoreline is dotted with historic markers and scenic points. Dense forests and rocky cliffs create a natural sound barrier, making even ordinary noises, such as a wave crashing against a rock or the snapping of a branch sound, amplified and ghost-like. Hikers and beachgoers have reported sudden chills, unexplained rustling in the brush, and fleeting shadows moving along the paths, adding to the sense that the area itself holds residual energy from the past. Specific tales of haunting at Alki Point Lighthouse have been recounted by generations of visitors. One frequent story involves a figure seen pacing the spiral staircase or lingering near the lantern room window, dressed as a keeper from decades past, carefully tending to the light. On foggy nights, witnesses have reported seeing flickering lights in the tower, even when the lighthouse is unlit, interpreted as spectral caretakers performing their duties. Others have described hearing soft whispers or faint voices echoing through the stairwell or hallway, sometimes accompanied by the sound of phantom footsteps or the subtle shifting of objects. These phenomena consistently suggest the presence of lingering spirits connected to the lighthouse's history, dedicated to their eternal watch. Paranormal investigations at the lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual occurrences. Audio recordings have captured whispers, faint cries, and indistinct voices. Infrared cameras have detected movement when no one is present, while investigators often note sudden temperature drops or inexplicable drafts, particularly in the upper levels near the lantern room. While some occurrences may be attributed to natural causes such as wind, acoustics, or structural settling, the persistence and consistency of reported experiences point to a presence beyond the ordinary, a lingering imprint of those who lived and worked at the lighthouse. Despite its haunted reputation, Alki Point Lighthouse remains a popular historical landmark and a destination for visitors, drawn to both its maritime significance and paranormal allure. Photographers and historians admire its scenic location and historic architecture, while ghost enthusiasts explore the tower and grounds seeking encounters with the unexplained. Many leave with vivid impressions of cold spots, flickering lights, or fleeting shadows, experiences that become part of the lighthouse's enduring narrative and mystique. Admiralty Head Lighthouse, perched on the bluffs of Whidbey Island in Coopeville, Washington, has stood as a vigilant guardian of Puget Sound since 1861, for over a century and a half. Its light has guided ships through the treacherous waters of the Sound, warning of hidden rocks and strong currents that have claimed countless vessels over the years. Beyond its practical function, Admiralty Head Lighthouse has become infamous for its reports of ghostly activity and paranormal encounters. Visitors have described cold spots, unexplained noises, and fleeting apparitions, believed to be the spirits of former keepers who once tended the light. The lighthouse's isolated location, surrounded by dense forests and historic military installations, further enhances its reputation as one of Washington's most haunted maritime landmarks. The lighthouse itself is a modest but commanding structure, sitting atop a bluff that overlooks the waters of Admiralty Inlet. From its vantage point, the lighthouse commands sweeping views of the Sound and the surrounding shoreline, including Fort Casey State Park, with its historic military batteries and coastal defenses. The surrounding landscape adds to the eerie atmosphere. Thick forests obscure the approach. Fog drifts in from the water, and the bluff's edges drop sharply to the rocky beaches below. The constant sound of waves crashing against the rocks and the whistle of wind through the trees creates an environment in which the natural and the supernatural seem inseparably intertwined. Inside the lighthouse, the history of solitude and duty contributes to the unsettling ambience. The narrow spiral staircase that leads to the lantern room is often the site of reported paranormal activity. Visitors have described hearing phantom footsteps echoing up the stairs, footsteps that do not match anyone present. Cold spots frequently appear in unexpected areas, sending sudden chills through those exploring the tower. Doors creak or open on their own, and the occasional faint whisper is heard in the silence of the upper levels. Shadowy figures, sometimes appearing in the garb of 19th-century lighthouse keepers, have been seen pacing the tower or standing near windows overlooking the inlet, vanishing when approached. Many believe these are the spirits of keepers who dedicated their lives to ensuring the lighthouse S-beam never faltered, maintaining their eternal vigil even after death. The lighthouse's history is steeped in perseverance, isolation, and occasional tragedy. Keepers often endured harsh weather, long stretches of solitude, and the constant responsibility of tending a light that could mean the difference between life and death for passing ships. Accidents, illness, and the inherent dangers of the coast claim the lives of some keepers. And local lore suggests that their spirits remain bound to the lighthouse, continuing to watch over the waters they once safeguarded. Visitors frequently report a tangible sense of presence, a subtle awareness that they are not alone, as if the dedication and vigilance of these spirits still permeate the building. The surrounding area contributes to the lighthouse's haunting reputation. Dense forests and open blufflands create natural echoes, making ordinary sounds like the breaking of a branch or the rush of waves seem amplified and otherworldly. Visitors exploring the grounds have reported sudden chills, the sensation of being followed, and glimpses of shadowy figures moving just beyond the tree line. The historic military installations nearby add layers to the atmosphere. The abandoned gun emplacements, observation posts, and concrete bunkers evoke a sense of time standing still, and some claim that the spirits of soldiers who once served there also mingle with those of the lighthouse keepers. The combination of isolation, history, and natural beauty creates an environment in which even a casual visitor might feel the presence of the past pressing close. Accounts of ghostly activity are numerous and varied. One recurring tale involves the sighting of a figure pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently at the top of the tower, gazing out over the inlet as if scanning the waters for incoming ships. On foggy evenings, witnesses have reported lights flickering in the lantern room, even when the lighthouse itself is unlit, interpreted as the spectral keepers performing their duties. Others have recounted hearing faint whispers, the soft clatter of objects moving, or footsteps echoing in empty rooms. These experiences, while different in detail, consistently suggest that the lighthouse remains alive with the memories and spirits of those who served there. Paranormal investigators have documented a variety of unusual phenomena at Admiralty Head Lighthouse. Audio equipment has captured whispers, faint voices, and knocking sounds. Infrared cameras have recorded shadowy movements in unoccupied areas. Sudden drops in temperature and unexplained drafts are commonly noted, particularly near the lantern room and upper hallways. While some phenomena may have natural explanations, the regularity and consistency of reported experiences suggest the presence of lingering spirits who have maintained their watch long after the last keeper departed. Despite its eerie reputation, Admiralty Head Lighthouse remains a popular destination for visitors, historians, and ghost enthusiasts alike. Photographers are drawn to its scenic vistas, while history buffs explore its connection to maritime navigation and military history. Ghost hunters are particularly intrigued by the reports of apparitions, cold spots, and unexplained noises. Many leave with vivid memories of fleeting shadows, unexpected chills, or mysterious lights, experiences that become part of the lighthouse's enduring story. Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse, standing sentinel off the coast of Tokeland, on the Long Beach Peninsula, Washington, has guided mariners through treacherous waters since its construction in 1866. Perched on a small island, surrounded by the unpredictable waves of the Pacific Ocean, the lighthouse has long served as a beacon of safety for ships navigating the perilous coastline. Yet, beyond its practical purpose, Cape Shoalwater has earned a reputation for ghostly encounters, strange lights, and unexplained phenomena, making it one of Washington's most haunted maritime landmarks. The combination of its storied history, isolation, and proximity to a coastline marked by shipwrecks has created an environment where the line between the natural and supernatural often feels indistinct. The lighthouse sits atop a low, rocky island, accessible only by boat, surrounded by the churning waters of Shoalwater Bay. Fog and mist frequently drift in from the Pacific, enveloping the lighthouse in a veil of gray that softens sound and distorts vision, creating an eerie atmosphere. The wind carries the constant roar of waves, which crash against the jagged rocks below. And on stormy nights, The combination of wind and water produces a haunting symphony that echoes across the bay. Visitors often note the profound sense of isolation upon arriving at the lighthouse, a feeling intensified by the absence of other structures and the vast expanse of water and sky surrounding it. This solitude, coupled with the lighthouse's long history, has fueled countless tales of hauntings and supernatural encounters. Inside Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse, the atmosphere is charged with the weight of history. The narrow spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, yet many visitors report hearing additional footsteps, seemingly belonging to no one. Cold spots appear suddenly, chilling the air and sending shivers down the spine. And doors have been known to open or close without explanation. Whispered voices, faint and indecipherable, occasionally drift through the corridors, and shadowy figures have been glimpsed moving silently along the upper levels or near windows overlooking the bay. These apparitions are often believed to be the spirits of past keepers, individuals who spent their lives tending the light in isolation and sometimes paying the ultimate price to ensure its continued operation. The history of Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse is marked by both perseverance and tragedy. Keepers endured long periods of isolation, braving storms, high winds, and freezing rain to keep the light burning. Over the decades, accidents, illnesses, and misfortune claimed the lives of several keepers, and local lore suggests that their spirits remain bound to the lighthouse and the surrounding waters they once protected. Many visitors report feeling a watchful presence, a sense that unseen eyes are observing them, a reminder of the dedication and vigilance of those who lived and worked there. The natural surroundings amplify the lighthouse's haunted reputation. Dense coastal forests and jagged cliffs create natural acoustics that magnify ordinary sounds. A snapping branch may echo like footsteps, and the roar of waves can resemble distant cries. Visitors exploring the shoreline often report sudden chills, fleeting shadows among the rocks, and the sensation of being followed by an unseen presence. The lighthouse's remote location and dramatic setting make it easy for the imagination to take hold, blending history, nature, and legend into an experience that is both captivating and unsettling. Accounts of ghostly activity at Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse are numerous and varied. One common tale involves a figure seen pacing the spiral staircase or standing in the lantern room, appearing in clothing reminiscent of 19th century keepers, moving silently and vanishing when approached. On foggy nights, flickering lights have been observed in the tower, even when the lighthouse is not in operation, interpreted as spectral keepers tending the beacon. Some visitors report hearing distant cries, whispered warnings, or the faint sound of objects being moved, while others describe cold spots and sudden gusts of wind within the interior. These experiences, consistent across decades of reports, suggest that the lighthouse is not merely a historical structure, but a place where the energy of the past continues to linger. Paranormal investigators have documented various unusual phenomena at Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse. Audio equipment has captured faint whispers, knocking sounds, and subtle, unexplained murmurs. Infrared cameras have recorded movement where no one is present, and sudden drops in temperature or unexplained drafts are regularly noted, particularly in the upper lantern room and keepers' quarters. While some events can be explained by environmental factors such as wind, acoustics, or structural settling, the regularity and consistency of reported experiences suggest that the presence of past keepers or lost sailors continues to manifest in the lighthouse. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse remains a cherished historical and cultural landmark. Visitors are drawn to its dramatic location, architectural charm, and maritime history, while ghost enthusiasts are fascinated by the stories of apparitions, cold spots, and unexplained phenomena. Photographers capture the rugged coastline and turbulent waters, while historians explore the legacy of the lighthouse in ensuring maritime safety. Many visitors depart with vivid memories of fleeting shadows, sudden chills, or mysterious lights, experiences that become part of the enduring narrative of Cape Shoalwater Lighthouse. Willapa Bay Lighthouse, once a steadfast sentinel on the north side of the entrance to Willapa Bay in Tokeland, Washington, has long been a site of fascination, mystery, and maritime history. Constructed in 1858, the lighthouse served as a critical guide for ships navigating the treacherous waters of the bay and the nearby Pacific coastline. For 80 years, its light warned sailors of shoals, sandbars, and hidden dangers that could spell disaster for vessels unfamiliar with the shifting channels. Though deactivated in 1938 and eventually demolished in the 1960s due to relentless erosion, the legacy of Willapa Bay Lighthouse has endured, not just in historical records but in ghostly lore. Visitors to the area report seeing apparitions, feeling sudden chills, and experiencing other unexplained phenomena at the lighthouse's former location, suggesting that the spirits of past keepers and sailors continue to linger where the lighthouse once stood. The site of the former lighthouse sits atop a low, eroding bluff overlooking Willapa Bay. Even without the structure, the location retains a haunting presence. The winds that sweep across the bay carry the sound of waves crashing on the shore and the distant calls of seabirds, creating an atmosphere both beautiful and unnerving. Fog often rolls in from the Pacific, shrouding the shoreline in a thick, gray mist that obscures vision and heightens the sense of isolation. Visitors have noted that the natural sounds waves, wind, and the creaking of old docks sometimes resemble human footsteps or distant voices, contributing to the eerie feeling that the lighthouse's former keepers have never truly departed. Though the physical structure is gone, reports of paranormal activity continue to be frequent. People exploring the area have described seeing shadowy figures moving along the bluff or near the shoreline, often vanishing when approached. Some report hearing the faint, rhythmic creak of a staircase, even though no building exists there. Cold spots manifest suddenly, sometimes accompanied by a sense of weight pressing on the chest or an unseen presence watching. Others claim to hear faint whispers, indistinct but undeniably human, drifting over the windswept landscape. Many of these experiences are interpreted as manifestations of the spirits of former lighthouse keepers or sailors who met their fate navigating the dangerous waters of the bay. The history of Willapa Bay Lighthouse is rich with both heroism and tragedy. Keepers were often isolated for weeks or months at a time, tending the light through storms, fog, and freezing weather. Their duties were rigorous, maintaining the lantern, trimming wicks, polishing lenses, and ensuring that the light remained operational throughout the night. These men and women lived in austere conditions, often with limited supplies and infrequent communication with the mainland. Shipwrecks were common, and the lighthouse was their only lifeline. Over the decades, several keepers and local sailors perished due to accidents, exposure, or maritime disasters, and local legend holds that some of their spirits remain bound to the site where the lighthouse once guided vessels to safety. Visitors to the former lighthouse site frequently describe an uncanny sense of being observed. The isolation of the bluff and the dramatic coastal scenery combine to amplify the feeling that the past is present. Shadows appear to shift among the trees and rocks, and sudden gusts of wind often accompany the sensation of a cold hand brushing past. On foggy evenings, some claim to see flickering lights hovering over the bluff, reminiscent of the lantern that once crowned the lighthouse. Others report hearing ghostly echoes of horns, bells, or distant shouts, as though the bay itself remembers the countless vessels that relied upon the lighthouse over the years. The surrounding area, with its dense coastal vegetation and rocky shoreline, adds to the mystique of Willapa Bay Lighthouse. The bluff overlooks the waters of the bay, where currents and tides create treacherous conditions for shipping. Rocks jut out from the water unpredictably, and the sandbars shift with each tide, contributing to the historical peril that made the lighthouse so vital. These same natural elements, fog, wind, waves, and dense foliage so create a haunting environment in which ordinary sounds are magnified, and ordinary sights can appear ghostly. Many visitors note that even a casual stroll along the bluff or the nearby shoreline can provoke an unsettling awareness of being watched. Stories of apparitions and unexplained phenomena are numerous. Witnesses have recounted seeing figures pacing near the bluff or along the waterline, often clad in the clothing styles of 19th-century keepers or sailors. Some describe hearing faint footfalls, distant voices calling out names, or the soft clatter of objects being moved, even though no structure remains. Flickering lights, sudden chills, and shadowy movements are common experiences reported by those brave enough to explore the area at dusk or during foggy mornings. Many locals and visitors alike interpret these occurrences as the lingering presence of those who once dedicated their lives to the lighthouse and the safety of mariners. Paranormal enthusiasts and investigators have taken note of Willapa Bay Lighthouse's enduring reputation. Audio recordings have captured faint whispers and unidentifiable sounds. Some claim to have photographed moving shadows or orbs of light in areas where no living person is present. Sudden drops in temperature, the sensation of invisible touches, and unexplained noises are consistently reported, reinforcing the belief that the spirits of past keepers and sailors continue to inhabit the site. Even in its absence, Willapa Bay Lighthouse remains a site of fascination and historical importance. Visitors are drawn not only to its natural beauty and maritime history, but also to the lingering sense of mystery and the stories of the unexplained. The bluff and shoreline provide a dramatic backdrop for reflection, photography, and ghost hunting, while the tales of apparitions, cold spots, and flickering lights create a narrative that bridges the past and present. Smith Island Lighthouse, established in 1858, stands on a small, isolated island off the coast of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington. For over a century and a half, its light has guided mariners through the treacherous waters of the Strait of Juan Defuca, warning of hidden shoals, jagged rocks, and unpredictable currents that have claimed countless vessels over the years. Beyond its vital role in maritime navigation, Smith Island Lighthouse has become known for its eerie and unexplained phenomena. Visitors and historians alike report ghostly apparitions, strange lights, and mysterious sounds, believed to be the lingering presence of past lighthouse keepers and sailors who lost their lives at sea. Its remote location, rugged landscape, and history of maritime tragedy combine to create a haunting atmosphere that continues to captivate those who venture to the island. The lighthouse rises from a rocky shoreline, its white towers stark against the often gray skies of the Pacific Northwest. The small island itself is surrounded by turbulent waters, and fog frequently rolls in from the ocean, cloaking the lighthouse in a thick, spectral mist. The sound of waves crashing against the rocks below echoes across the island, mixing with the howl of wind through the sparse trees and shrubbery. Even on calm days, the isolation of the location imparts a profound sense of solitude and vulnerability, heightening the feeling that the past remains present. Visitors often remark that the natural elements of the island, the fog, the wind, and the jagged terrains, seem to amplify the eerie sensations that accompany the lighthouse's long history. Inside the lighthouse, the sense of haunting is particularly strong. The narrow spiral staircase leading to the lantern room has been the site of numerous reports of phantom footsteps echoing through the tower. Cold spots appear unexpectedly, sometimes accompanied by a sudden shiver or the sensation of being watched. Doors and cabinets occasionally move on their own, creaking or opening without explanation, while faint whispers are often heard in the quietest corners of the structure. Shadowy figures, sometimes resembling keepers in 19th-century clothing, have been glimpsed moving silently along the upper levels or near windows overlooking the Strait of Juan Defuca. Many visitors believe these manifestations are the spirits of keepers who devoted their lives to tending the light and safeguarding the lives of passing mariners. The history of Smith Island Lighthouse is one of resilience, dedication, and, at times, tragedy. Keepers endured long periods of isolation, harsh weather, and the constant responsibility of ensuring the light remained operational. Storms battered the island, and the rocky shoreline made resupply difficult and sometimes dangerous. Shipwrecks were common in the waters surrounding Smith Island, and the lighthouse was often the only safeguard against disaster. Accidents, sudden illnesses, and the harsh conditions of the island claimed the lives of several keepers, and local lore holds that some spirits remain bound to the lighthouse and its surrounding waters. Visitors often report a subtle but unmistakable sense of being watched, as if the vigilance of past keepers continues to permeate the building. The natural environment around the lighthouse adds to its spectral reputation. Rocky cliffs, dense underbrush, and the open expanse of the ocean create acoustics that amplify ordinary sounds, making them seem ghostly. The crashing of waves may sound like distant shouts or cries, while the wind through the trees can resemble whispers or footsteps. Visitors exploring the island have described sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and the feeling of being followed by an unseen presence. Even the beauty of the island, the rugged coastline, panoramic views, and abundant wildlife contributes to an uncanny sensation, a reminder that the island has witnessed centuries of maritime struggle and human endurance. Specific tales of haunting at Smith Island Lighthouse are numerous and often chilling. Witnesses have recounted seeing a figure pacing the spiral staircase or standing in the lantern room, seemingly tending to the light in a manner consistent with the duties of long-departed keepers. On foggy nights, lights have been observed flickering in the tower, even when the lighthouse is unlit, interpreted as spectral guardians maintaining their watch. Others have described hearing soft, urgent whispers or the faint clatter of objects, experiences that seem to resonate with the history of isolation, dedication, and maritime peril that defines the lighthouse. Many believe that the spirits of sailors lost at sea are also present, wandering the shoreline or moving unseen through the tower. Paranormal investigations at Smith Island Lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual phenomena. Audio recordings have captured whispers, muffled cries, and faint, indistinct voices. Infrared cameras have detected movement when no living person is present, while sudden drops in temperature and unexplained drafts are commonly reported, particularly near the upper lantern room and stairwell. While environmental explanations exist for some occurrences, the consistency and persistence of reports suggest the presence of lingering spirits who continue their watch over the waters surrounding the island. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Smith Island Lighthouse remains an important historical landmark and a destination for adventurers, historians, and ghost enthusiasts. Photographers capture the rugged shoreline and dramatic views of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, while visitors explore the tower and grounds, seeking a tangible connection to the past. Ghost hunters are drawn to reports of apparitions, cold spots, and flickering lights, eager to experience firsthand the lingering presence of keepers and sailors. Many leave the island with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, and mysterious lights, experiences that become part of the lighthouse's enduring story. Doffelmeyer Point Lighthouse, perched at the southern tip of Puget Sound near Olympia, Washington, has been a steadfast guardian of maritime traffic since it was first lit in 1926. Standing alone on a narrow spit of land that juts into the waters of the Sound, the lighthouse has long served as a beacon for ships navigating the sometimes treacherous waters of the area. Though modest in size compared to some of Washington's larger coastal lights, Doffelmeyer Point has developed a reputation for eerie and unexplained occurrences. Visitors to the site report cold spots, strange noises, and even apparitions of former keepers, making it a location where maritime history and the supernatural seem to intersect. Its remote setting, surrounded by dense forests and quiet shores, adds to the atmosphere of mystery and haunting. The lighthouse itself is a small, white structure with a simple lantern atop a square tower. From its vantage point, it commands panoramic views of the southern Puget Sound, where ferries and cargo ships traverse the waterways, guided by the steady light that has served as a navigational aid for nearly a century. The surrounding area is characterized by thick forests, rocky outcrops, and quiet beaches. Fog frequently rolls in from the Sound, wrapping the lighthouse in a ghostly veil that softens sound and creates an almost otherworldly ambience. The gentle lapping of waves and the distant calls of seabirds combine with the occasional roar of wind through the trees to create an environment that feels both serene and unsettling. Visitors often remark that even in broad daylight, the lighthouse and its surroundings carry a palpable sense of history and lingering presence. Inside the lighthouse, reports of paranormal activity are frequent. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, Yet many have reported hearing additional footsteps echoing where no one else is present. Cold spots appear suddenly, sending shivers down the spine, and the occasional whisper drifts through the quiet interior, indistinct but unmistakably human. Doors may open or close on their own, and objects occasionally move or shift without explanation. Shadowy figures, often resembling keepers in early 20th century attire, have been observed pacing the upper levels or standing silently near windows overlooking the sound. These phenomena are commonly interpreted as the lingering presence of past lighthouse keepers, men and women who devoted their lives to tending the light and ensuring the safety of passing vessels. The history of Dolphin Point Lighthouse is one of dedication, isolation, and quiet heroism. Keepers faced long stretches of solitude, tending the light through fog, rain, and snow. Their work was exacting, maintaining the lantern, cleaning lenses, and ensuring the light remained operational through the night. Supply deliveries were infrequent, and keepers often had to manage with limited resources. The surrounding waters were hazardous, and shipwrecks occurred despite the lighthouse's guidance, leaving tragedy intertwined with the lighthouse's legacy. Over the decades, some keepers and local sailors lost their lives in accidents or illness, and folklore holds that their spirits remain bound to the lighthouse, continuing their vigil long after the structure's earliest residents have passed. The natural environment around Dolphin Point amplifies the lighthouse's haunted reputation. Dense forests and rocky shores create natural acoustics, where ordinary sounds, breaking waves, snapping branches, or distant wildlife can take on a ghostly quality. Visitors exploring the shoreline often report sudden chills, glimpses of shadows, or the feeling of being followed by an unseen presence. The isolation and beauty of the area, while captivating, also evoke a sense of vulnerability, heightening awareness of the lighthouse's history and the lives that have been connected to it over decades. Many leave the area with a lingering sense that the past is never far away, that the spirits of keepers and sailors continue to watch over the sound. Specific accounts of ghostly activity at Dolphin Point Lighthouse are varied and chilling. Visitors have described figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, performing the duties of long-departed keepers. Flickering lights are sometimes observed at night, even when the lighthouse is unlit, interpreted as spectral guardians maintaining their watch. Others report hearing soft, urgent whispers, the faint clatter of objects, or unexplained footsteps echoing across the building. Some witnesses claim to see shadowy forms moving along the forested edges or across the rocky beaches, further reinforcing the idea that the spirits of those who lived and worked at the lighthouse linger in the area. Paranormal investigators have documented a range of unusual phenomena at Dolphin Point Lighthouse. Audio recordings have captured faint whispers and unexplained knocks. Infrared cameras have detected movement in empty areas, and sudden drops in temperature are commonly reported, especially near the upper levels of the lighthouse. While natural explanations exist for some events, the consistency and frequency of reports suggest a persistent presence, a lingering energy tied to the history of keepers and sailors who navigated these waters. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Dolphin Point Lighthouse remains a treasured historical and cultural site. Visitors are drawn to its scenic views, maritime history, and the quiet charm of its remote setting. Ghost enthusiasts are drawn by reports of apparitions, flickering lights, and cold spots, while photographers and history buffs explore the site to capture its beauty and historical significance. Many leave with vivid impressions of shadows, sudden chills, and mysterious sounds, experiences that add to the enduring story of Dolphin Point Lighthouse. Edie's Hook Lighthouse, perched at the entrance to Port Angeles Harbor in Washington, has served as a steadfast guardian for mariners since it was first lit in 1865. Standing on the narrow spit of land known as Edie's Hook, the lighthouse has guided countless ships safely into the harbor, helping them navigate the often unpredictable waters of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Over more than a century and a half, the lighthouse has witnessed countless storms, shipwrecks, and maritime tragedies, leaving behind not only a rich history, but also a reputation for the unexplained. Visitors to Ida's Hook Lighthouse report ghostly apparitions, flickering lights, and strange, unaccountable sounds, suggesting that the spirits of past keepers and sailors may still linger where the lighthouse continues its silent vigil. The lighthouse itself is a modest yet striking structure, with a white tower and a small lantern room that rises above the harbor's entrance. The surrounding landscape, with the waters of the strait on one side and the rugged terrain of Olympic National Park on the other, creates an atmosphere both picturesque and haunting. Fog frequently rolls in from the strait, wrapping the lighthouse in a dense, spectral mist that softens sounds and casts the area in a ghostly light. Even on calm days, the wind carries the roar of the waves and the distant calls of seabirds, producing a natural symphony that can feel eerie and otherworldly. Visitors often comment on the profound sense of isolation and quiet vigilance that the lighthouse imparts, as if the structure itself remains aware of the countless lives it has safeguarded over the years. Inside Ida's Hook Lighthouse, the sense of haunting is particularly pronounced. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, yet many visitors report hearing additional footsteps echoing where no one else is present. Cold spots appear suddenly, sending chills down the spine, and faint whispers drift through the empty corridors, indistinct but undeniably human. Doors sometimes open or close on their own, and shadowy figures are occasionally seen moving along the upper levels or near windows overlooking the harbor. Many of these phenomena are interpreted as the lingering presence of past keepers, individuals who dedicated their lives to maintaining the light and ensuring the safety of mariners, often enduring harsh weather and long periods of isolation. The history of Ida's Hook Lighthouse is marked by dedication, vigilance, and tragedy. Keepers were responsible for maintaining the light through storms, fog, and freezing temperatures, often working in isolation for weeks at a time. They cleaned the lantern, polished the lenses, and ensured that the light functioned every night, guiding ships safely through dangerous waters. Shipwrecks occurred despite their vigilance, and accidents, illness, and exposure claimed the lives of several keepers over the years. Local lore suggests that some of these spirits remain bound to the lighthouse and the harbor they helped protect, their watchful presence continuing long after their deaths. The surrounding environment enhances the lighthouse's eerie reputation. Rocky shores, dense forests, and foggy weather create natural acoustics that can make ordinary sounds seem ghostly. The crash of waves against the rocks may resemble distant shouts or cries, and the wind through the trees can sound like whispered voices. Visitors exploring the shoreline or the lighthouse grounds often report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and the sensation of being watched, even in daylight. The isolation and dramatic scenery of Ida's Hook contribute to an uncanny sense that the past is present, that the spirits of keepers and sailors continue to roam the area. Tales of ghostly activity at Ida's Hook Lighthouse are numerous and varied. Witnesses have described seeing figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, performing the duties of keepers long gone. On foggy nights, lights have been observed flickering in the tower, even when the lighthouse is not operational, interpreted as spectral guardians tending the beacon. Some visitors report hearing faint, urgent whispers, the distant creak of doors, or the clatter of objects moving without explanation. Shadowy forms have been seen moving along the forested edges or across the rocky shoreline, reinforcing the idea that the spirits of those who once lived and worked at the lighthouse continue to inhabit the area. Paranormal investigations at Ida's Hook Lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual phenomena. Audio equipment has captured faint whispers and muffled voices. Infrared cameras have detected movement where no one is present, and sudden drops in temperature are common in the upper lantern room and corridors. While some occurrences may be explained by natural factors such as wind, acoustics, or structural settling, the frequency and consistency of reports suggest a lingering energy tied to the lighthouse's history and the people who devoted their lives to its operation. Despite its haunted reputation, Edith's Hook Lighthouse remains an important historical landmark and a destination for those interested in maritime history and the unexplained. Visitors are drawn to the stunning views of Port Angeles Harbor, the rugged beauty of the surrounding coastline, and the lighthouse's storied past. Ghost enthusiasts are fascinated by reports of apparitions, cold spots, and flickering lights, while photographers and historians explore the area to capture its architectural and natural beauty. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, or mysterious lights, experiences that become part of the enduring narrative of Edith's Hook Lighthouse. Cape Oliver Lighthouse, standing at the westernmost point of the contiguous United States, has served as a steadfast guide for mariners since its first light in 1898. Positioned on the rugged coastline of Washington state, this lighthouse has witnessed over a century of maritime history. Weathering fierce storms, dense fog, and the unpredictable tides of the Pacific Ocean, its remote location and long history have contributed not only to its importance as a navigational aid, but also to a reputation for haunting. Visitors to Cape Oliver Lighthouse frequently report unexplained noises, cold spots, and ghostly apparitions, believed to be the lingering presence of former keepers and sailors who once depended on the lighthouse for safety. The surrounding terrain, with its dense forests and jagged coastline, amplifies the atmosphere of isolation and mystery, making it one of Washington's most enigmatic maritime landmarks. The lighthouse itself is a modest, white structure with a small lantern room atop a square tower. Despite its size, it commands sweeping views of the Pacific, where ships have navigated treacherous waters for more than a century. Fog often drifts in from the ocean, enveloping the lighthouse in a spectral mist that obscures sight and softens sound, creating an atmosphere that can feel simultaneously serene and unsettling. The crash of waves against the rocky shore, the distant call of seabirds, and the constant rustle of wind through the coastal vegetation combine to create a natural soundscape that heightens the sense of haunting. Visitors often remark that even during daylight, the lighthouse exudes a presence that seems to watch over the coast, as if the spirits of its past keepers remain vigilant. Inside Cape Oliver Lighthouse, the sense of the supernatural is particularly strong. The narrow staircase leading to the lantern room creaks with every step, yet many have reported hearing additional footsteps echoing when no one else is present. Cold spots appear without warning, sending chills down the spine, and faint whispers drift through the tower. Indistinct but undeniably human. Doors occasionally open or close on their own, and shadowy figures have been seen moving along the upper levels or near windows overlooking the ocean. Many visitors interpret these manifestations as the lingering presence of former keepers, dedicated individuals who spent long hours tending the light and safeguarding ships from the treacherous coastline. The history of Cape Oliver Lighthouse is steeped in both dedication and danger. Keepers lived in isolation for weeks or months at a time, responsible for maintaining the light through storms, fog, and freezing conditions. They polished lenses, trimmed wicks, and ensured that the beacon remained operational through the night, often relying on meager supplies delivered infrequently by boat. The waters surrounding Cape Oliver were notoriously dangerous, and despite the keepers' vigilance, shipwrecks were common. Accidents and illness claimed the lives of several keepers over the decades, and local lore holds that their spirits remain tied to the lighthouse, continuing to watch over the waters and the rugged coastline. The surrounding environment of the lighthouse contributes to its eerie reputation. Dense coastal forests, jagged cliffs, and rocky beaches create natural acoustics that amplify ordinary sounds, making them seem supernatural. Waves crashing against the shore can resemble distant cries or shouts, and wind passing through the trees often carries the illusion of whispering voices. Visitors walking the trails or exploring the shoreline report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and an unshakable sense of being watched. Even during clear days, the dramatic scenery and isolation of Cape Oliver evoked a feeling that the past is present, and that the spirits of keepers and sailors continue to roam the area. Accounts of ghostly activity at Cape Oliver Lighthouse are numerous and chilling. Witnesses describe figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, performing the duties of long-departed keepers. On foggy nights, some report flickering lights in the tower, even when the lighthouse is unlit, interpreted as spectral guardians maintaining their watch. Others recount hearing soft whispers, the faint clatter of objects, or the distant creak of doors, all seemingly tied to the lighthouse's long history. Shadowy forms have been observed moving along the cliffs and through the surrounding forest, reinforcing the idea that the spirits of those who lived and worked at the lighthouse remain close by. Paranormal investigations at Cape Oliver Lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual occurrences. Audio recordings have captured whispers and unexplained noises, while infrared cameras have detected movement in empty areas. Sudden drops in temperature are common in the upper lantern room and along stairwells, and unexplained lights are frequently reported by visitors. While natural explanations may account for some phenomena, the consistency and frequency of these reports suggest a lingering energy tied to the lighthouse's history and the people who devoted their lives to its operation. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Cape Oliver Lighthouse remains an important historical and cultural site. Visitors are drawn not only to its panoramic views of the Pacific and dramatic coastline, but also to the rich maritime history embedded in every stone of the lighthouse. Ghost enthusiasts are intrigued by reports of apparitions, flickering lights, and cold spots, while photographers and historians explore the site to capture its natural and architectural beauty. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, or unexplained sounds, experiences that become part of the enduring narrative of Cape Oliver Lighthouse. Point Partridge Lighthouse, perched on the eastern shore of San Juan Island in Washington, has been a steadfast guardian of maritime traffic since it was first lit in 1905. Its location, overlooking the tranquil waters of the San Juan Islands and the Strait of Juan de Fuca, has long provided a critical beacon for ships navigating the often foggy and unpredictable Pacific Northwest waters. Despite its serene surroundings and picturesque views, the lighthouse carries a reputation for eerie and unexplained phenomena. Visitors and locals alike report ghostly apparitions, flickering lights, and strange sounds, often attributing them to the spirits of former keepers and sailors who lived and worked near the lighthouse. The combination of history, isolation, and the natural beauty of the surrounding area has created an atmosphere that is as haunting as it is mesmerizing. The lighthouse itself is a modest white structure, crowned with a small lantern room that houses its light. From its elevated position on the rocky shoreline, it commands sweeping views of the waters and surrounding islands. Fog frequently rolls in from the Strait of Juan de Fuca, enveloping the lighthouse in a thick, spectral haze that softens sound and obscures visibility, enhancing the lighthouse's mysterious ambience. The gentle lapping of the waves against the rocky shore, the distant calls of seabirds, and the occasional gust of wind through nearby trees combine to create an atmosphere that can feel both peaceful and unsettling. Many visitors describe a profound sense of isolation and watchfulness, as though the lighthouse itself and the spirits tied to it are silently observing the waters and the land. Inside Point Partridge Lighthouse, the reports of paranormal activity are frequent. The narrow staircase leading to the lantern room creaks with each step, yet many have reported hearing additional footsteps when no one else is present. Cold spots appear suddenly, often accompanied by a sudden chill or shiver. Whispered voices drift through the corridors, faint but unmistakably human, and doors occasionally open or close on their own. Shadowy figures have been spotted pacing the stairwell or standing near windows that overlook the water. Many believe these manifestations are the lingering presence of former lighthouse keepers, individuals who devoted their lives to maintaining the light, ensuring the safety of mariners, and enduring long periods of isolation in harsh conditions. The history of Point Partridge Lighthouse is one of dedication, vigilance, and, at times, tragedy. Keepers were tasked with maintaining the light in all weather conditions, from dense fog to storms that lashed the shoreline. They polished lenses, trimmed wicks, and ensured the beacon remained operational every night. often relying on infrequent deliveries of supplies and enduring long stretches without human contact. Shipwrecks were common in the surrounding waters despite the lighthouse's guidance, and accidents, illness, and harsh conditions claimed the lives of several keepers over the decades. Local folklore holds that some of these spirits remain bound to the lighthouse, continuing their watch over the waters they once safeguarded. The surrounding environment adds to the lighthouse's haunting reputation. Dense coastal forests, rocky cliffs, and the calm yet sometimes turbulent waters of the San Juan Islands create natural acoustics that amplify ordinary sounds, transforming them into eerie echoes. Waves crashing against the rocks can sound like distant cries or calls, while the wind through the trees often carries the illusion of whispered voices. Visitors walking along the shoreline or exploring the lighthouse grounds frequently report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and the sense of being watched, even during daylight. The combination of isolation, history, and dramatic scenery evokes a feeling that the past is present, that the spirits of keepers and sailors continue to inhabit the area. Tales of ghostly activity at Point Partridge Lighthouse are numerous and varied. Witnesses have described figures pacing the stairwell or silently observing from the lantern room. Lights have been reported flickering in the tower on foggy nights, even when the lighthouse is not operational, interpreted as spectral guardians maintaining their watch. Some visitors hear faint whispers, the distant creak of doors, or the clatter of objects, experiences that seem tied to the lighthouse's long history. Shadowy forms are sometimes seen moving along the cliffs, the forested edges, or near the water, suggesting that the spirits of those who lived and worked at the lighthouse remain ever present. Paranormal investigations at Point Partridge Lighthouse have captured a variety of unusual phenomena. Audio equipment has recorded whispers and indistinct voices. Infrared cameras have detected movement in areas where no living person is present, and sudden drops in temperature are commonly reported, particularly near the lantern room and stairwell. While natural explanations may account for some of the occurrences, the frequency and consistency of the reports suggest a persistent energy tied to the lighthouse's history and the people who devoted their lives to its operation. Despite its haunted reputation, Point Partridge Lighthouse remains a cherished historical and cultural site. Visitors are drawn not only to its sweeping views of the San Juan Islands and Strait of Juan de Fuca, but also to its rich maritime history. Ghost enthusiasts are intrigued by reports of apparitions, flickering lights, and cold spots, while photographers and historians explore the lighthouse to capture both its architectural and natural beauty. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, and mysterious sounds, adding to the enduring narrative of Point Partridge Lighthouse. Point Doughty Lighthouse, standing at the northern tip of Orcas Island in Washington state, has been a guiding light for mariners since its first illumination in 1907. Perched on a rocky promontory that juts into the waters of the San Juan Islands, the lighthouse has watched over countless ships navigating the sometimes treacherous channels of the Pacific Northwest. Despite its relatively small size, Point Doughty has garnered a reputation for eerie occurrences and ghostly sightings, earning it a place among the most haunted lighthouses in Washington. Visitors have reported cold spots that appear without warning, unexplained noises echoing through the tower, and shadowy figures reminiscent of former keepers. The surrounding landscape, marked by dense forests and quiet, rocky shores, enhances the atmosphere of isolation and mystery, making the lighthouse both a historical landmark and a site of paranormal fascination. The lighthouse itself is a modest white tower with a lantern room that rises above the northern shoreline, overlooking the sweeping waters of the San Juan archipelago. The location provides panoramic views of the surrounding islands and the waters below, where currents can shift suddenly and fog often rolls in from the Strait of Juan de Fuca. This fog, thick and persistent, wraps the lighthouse in a ghostly veil, muting sound and giving the surroundings an ethereal quality. The rhythmic crash of waves against the rocky shore, the distant calls of seabirds, and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees combine to create an atmosphere that is both serene and unsettling. Even during clear days, visitors often feel a palpable sense of vigilance, as if the lighthouse itself and the spirits tied to it continue to watch over the waters. Inside Point Doughty Lighthouse, the presence of the unexplained is particularly pronounced. The narrow staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, yet visitors often report hearing additional footsteps when no one else is present. Cold spots can appear suddenly in hallways or near the lantern room, sending shivers down the spine. Whispered voices drift through the empty corridors, faint and indistinct, and doors sometimes move without human intervention. Shadowy figures have been spotted pacing the stairwell or standing silently near windows overlooking the water. Many interpret these experiences as the lingering presence of former keepers, men and women who devoted their lives to maintaining the light and ensuring the safety of vessels, often enduring long periods of isolation and harsh weather. The history of Point Doughty Lighthouse is a story of dedication and resilience. Keepers were responsible for maintaining the light under all conditions, from heavy fog and storms to icy winter nights. They polished lenses, maintained the lantern, and ensured that the beacon remained operational every evening. Supply deliveries were often infrequent, requiring keepers to rely on limited provisions for days at a time. Shipwrecks occurred despite their vigilance, and accidents or illness claimed the lives of several keepers over the decades. Local lore suggests that some of these spirits never left, bound to the lighthouse and the surrounding waters they once safeguarded, continuing their eternal watch over the island's northern tip. The environment around the lighthouse enhances its haunting reputation. Dense forests, jagged cliffs, and quiet, rocky beaches create natural acoustics that make ordinary sound waves breaking on rocks, branches snapping in the wind, or seabirds calling seem otherworldly. Visitors exploring the shoreline or the lighthouse grounds frequently report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and a sense of being watched, even during daylight. The combination of isolation, rugged beauty, and historical weight evokes the feeling that the past is present, that the spirits of keepers and sailors linger in the area, their presence subtly interwoven with the landscape. Reports of ghostly activity at Point Doughty Lighthouse are numerous. Witnesses describe figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, performing the duties of keepers long gone. On foggy nights, some have reported flickering lights in the tower even when the lighthouse is not operational, interpreted as spectral guardians tending the beacon. Others recount hearing whispers, the creak of doors, or the clatter of objects moving without explanation. Shadowy forms have been seen along the cliffs and forested edges or crossing the rocky shoreline, reinforcing the notion that the lighthouse continues to be inhabited by the spirits of those who once lived and worked there. Paranormal investigations at Point Doughty Lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual phenomena. Audio recordings have captured faint voices and whispers. Infrared cameras have detected movement in empty areas, and sudden drops in temperature are frequently reported in the lantern room and stairwells. While some occurrences may be explained by natural factors, such as wind, acoustics, or structural settling, the consistency and repetition of these reports suggest a persistent energy linked to the lighthouse's history and the people who dedicated their lives to its operation. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Point Doughty Lighthouse remains a cherished historical site and a popular destination for visitors. People are drawn not only to the sweeping views of the San Juan Islands and the surrounding waters, but also to the lighthouse's rich history. Ghost enthusiasts are captivated by reports of apparitions, unexplained noises, and cold spots, while historians and photographers explore the site to document its architecture, natural scenery, and maritime significance. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, or fleeting lights, experiences that add to the enduring narrative of Point Doughty Lighthouse. Point Caution Lighthouse, perched at the southern tip of Lopez Island in Washington state, has been a steadfast guide for mariners since its first illumination in 1912, overlooking the serene waters of the San Juan Islands. The lighthouse has provided a vital beacon for ships navigating the often fog-laden and unpredictable passages of the Pacific Northwest. Despite the tranquil beauty of its surroundings, Point Caution Lighthouse has earned a reputation for eerie and unexplained phenomena. Visitors frequently report cold spots that appear without warning, mysterious footsteps echoing along empty corridors, and shadowy figures glimpsed in the tower, believed to be the lingering spirits of former keepers and sailors. The lighthouse's isolated location, combined with the rugged coastline and dense coastal forests, creates an atmosphere that is as haunting as it is captivating, drawing both maritime historians and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The lighthouse itself is a simple yet elegant structure, with a white tower topped by a lantern room that rises above the rocky shoreline. Its elevated position provides sweeping views of the surrounding waters and neighboring islands, where currents and tides can shift suddenly, and dense fog can roll in without warning. This fog, thick and enveloping, transforms the lighthouse into a ghostly sentinel, muting sound and casting the area in an ethereal glow. The rhythmic crash of waves against the shore, the distant calls of seabirds, and the whisper of wind through nearby trees create a natural symphony that can feel simultaneously calming and unsettling. Even in daylight, visitors often sense an invisible presence, as though the lighthouse itself, along with the spirits tied to it, continues to watch over the waters it has safeguarded for more than a century. Inside Point Caution Lighthouse, the sense of the supernatural is particularly palpable. The narrow staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, yet visitors often report hearing additional footsteps when no one else is present. Cold spots appear suddenly in hallways or near windows, sending shivers down the spine. Faint whispers drift through the corridors, indistinct but unmistakably human. And doors occasionally open or close without explanation. Shadowy figures have been spotted pacing the stairs or standing silently near the lantern room, watching over the waters below. Many interpret these phenomena as the lingering presence of former keepers, individuals who devoted their lives to tending the light, ensuring the safety of vessels, and enduring long stretches of solitude in challenging conditions. The history of Point Caution Lighthouse is one of dedication and resilience. Keepers were responsible for maintaining the light through fog, storms, and harsh winter conditions. They polished lenses, trimmed wicks, and ensured the beacon remained operational every night, often relying on infrequent supply deliveries and enduring extended periods of isolation. Shipwrecks occurred despite the lighthouse's guidance, and accidents or illness claimed the lives of several keepers over the years. Local lore suggests that some of these spirits never left, bound to the lighthouse and the surrounding waters they once protected, continuing their eternal watch over Lopez Island's southern tip. The surrounding environment enhances the lighthouse's eerie reputation. Dense coastal forests, rocky cliffs, and quiet beaches create natural acoustics that amplify ordinary sounds, making them seem otherworldly. Waves crashing against rocks can sound like distant cries or shouts, while the wind through the trees often carries the illusion of whispered voices. Visitors exploring the shoreline or the lighthouse grounds frequently report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and an unshakable sense of being watched. Even during clear daylight, the combination of isolation, natural beauty, and historical weight evokes a feeling that the past is present, that the spirits of keepers and sailors continue to inhabit the area. Accounts of ghostly activity at Point Caution Lighthouse are numerous and chilling. Witnesses describe figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, performing the duties of keepers long gone. On foggy nights, some report lights flickering in the tower even when the lighthouse is not operational, interpreted as spectral guardians maintaining the beacon. Others recount hearing faint whispers, the creak of doors, or the clatter of objects moving without explanation. Shadowy forms are sometimes seen along the cliffs, through the forests, or near the water, suggesting that the lighthouse remains inhabited by the spirits of those who once lived and worked there. Paranormal investigations at Point Caution Lighthouse have documented a variety of unusual occurrences. Audio recordings have captured faint voices and whispers. Infrared cameras have detected movement in areas where no living person is present. And sudden drops in temperature are often reported in the lantern room and stairwells. While some phenomena may be explained by structural settling, wind, or other natural causes, the frequency and consistency of these reports suggest a lingering energy tied to the lighthouse's history and the people who dedicated their lives to its operation. Despite its haunted reputation, Point Caution Lighthouse remains an important historical and cultural landmark. Visitors are drawn not only to its sweeping views of the San Juan Islands and surrounding waters, but also to its rich maritime history. Ghost enthusiasts are intrigued by reports of apparitions, flickering lights, and cold spots, while photographers and historians explore the site to document its architecture, natural beauty, and significance. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, or mysterious sounds, adding to the enduring narrative of Point Caution Lighthouse. Point Baker Lighthouse, perched on the windswept shores of Baker Island in the San Juan Islands, has served as a vital guide for mariners since its first illumination in 1913. Standing against the rugged Pacific Northwest coastline, the lighthouse has guided countless vessels through the often fog-shrouded and treacherous waters of the San Juan archipelago. Despite its relatively modest size, Point Baker Lighthouse has earned a reputation for eerie occurrences and unexplained phenomena. Visitors often report sudden cold spots, mysterious footsteps, flickering lights, and shadowy figures, which many believe are the lingering spirits of former lighthouse keepers. The isolated location of Baker Island, combined with dense coastal forests and rocky cliffs, contributes to the lighthouse's haunting ambience, making it both a historic maritime landmark and a focal point for ghost enthusiasts. The lighthouse itself is a small, white tower with a lantern room that rises above the rocky promontory. From this elevated position, it commands expansive views of the surrounding waters, where currents shift quickly and fog often rolls in from the Strait of Juan de Fuca. This thick, enveloping fog not only obscures vision but also softens sound, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that can be both serene and unsettling. The constant rhythm of waves crashing against the rocky shoreline, the distant calls of seabirds, and the occasional whisper of wind through the coastal trees form a natural soundscape that intensifies the sense of isolation. Even during daylight, visitors often report a feeling of being watched, as if the lighthouse itself and the spirits tied to it maintain a vigilant presence over the waters below. Inside Point Baker Lighthouse, the sense of the supernatural is particularly strong. The narrow spiral staircase creaks underfoot, yet many have reported hearing additional footsteps echoing when no one else is present. Cold spots appear abruptly, sending shivers down the spine, and faint whispers drift through the corridors, indistinct but unmistakably human. Doors occasionally open or close on their own, and shadowy figures are sometimes seen moving along the stairwell or standing silently near the lantern room windows. Many visitors interpret these manifestations as the lingering presence of former keepers, men and women who devoted their lives to tending the light and ensuring the safety of vessels, navigating the surrounding waters, often enduring long stretches of solitude in harsh and unforgiving conditions. The history of Point Baker Lighthouse is one of dedication, vigilance, and, at times, tragedy. Keepers were responsible for maintaining the light through dense fog, storms, and icy winters, ensuring that the beacon remained operational each night. They polished lenses, trimmed wicks, and relied on infrequent supply deliveries while living in near isolation on a remote island. Despite their diligence, shipwrecks were common in the surrounding waters, and accidents, illness, and harsh conditions claimed the lives of several keepers over the years. Local lore holds that some of these spirits never left, remaining bound to the lighthouse and the surrounding waters they once protected, continuing an eternal watch over Baker Island's northern shores. The natural environment around the lighthouse enhances its eerie reputation. Dense coastal forests, jagged cliffs, and rocky beaches create natural acoustics that amplify ordinary sounds, turning them into something uncanny. Waves crashing against rocks can resemble distant cries, while the wind through the trees carries the illusion of whispered voices. Visitors walking along the shoreline or exploring the lighthouse grounds frequently report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and a profound sense of being watched. Even in daylight, The combination of isolation, dramatic scenery, and historical significance evokes the feeling that the past is present, and that the spirits of keepers and sailors remain tethered to the lighthouse and the island. Accounts of ghostly activity at Point Baker Lighthouse are numerous and compelling. Witnesses describe figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, performing the duties of keepers long departed. On foggy nights, some have reported lights flickering in the tower, even when the lighthouse is not in operation, interpreted as spectral guardians maintaining their eternal watch. Others recount hearing faint whispers, the creak of doors, or the clatter of objects moving without explanation. Shadowy forms are sometimes observed along the cliffs, through the forested areas, or near the rocky shoreline, reinforcing the idea that the lighthouse remains inhabited by the spirits of those who once lived and worked there. Paranormal investigations at Point Baker Lighthouse have documented a range of unusual phenomena. Audio recordings have captured faint voices and whispers. Infrared cameras have detected movement in empty spaces, and sudden drops in temperature are frequently reported in the lantern room and stairwells. While some occurrences may have natural explanations, such as wind, structural settling, or acoustics, the frequency and consistency of the reports suggest a lingering energy connected to the lighthouse, its long history, and the people who devoted their lives to its operation. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Point Baker Lighthouse remains a cherished historical site and a captivating destination. Visitors are drawn not only to its sweeping views of the San Juan Islands and the surrounding waters, but also to the lighthouse's rich maritime history. Ghost enthusiasts are intrigued by reports of apparitions, flickering lights, and cold spots, while historians and photographers explore the site to document its architecture, scenery, and historical significance. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, or mysterious sounds, contributing to the enduring narrative of Point Baker Lighthouse. Turnpoint Lighthouse, standing sentinel on the western tip of Stewart Island in Washington State, has guided mariners through the perilous waters of the San Juan Islands since its first illumination in 1893. Perched atop a rocky promontory, the lighthouse overlooks channels and straits notorious for sudden currents, hidden rocks, and frequent fog, earning the surrounding waters a reputation as treacherous and unforgiving over more than a century. Turnpoint has not only served as a vital beacon for sailors, but has also become the source of numerous eerie tales. Visitors and nearby residents have long reported mysterious lights flickering in the tower, the distant and haunting sound of a foghorn echoing across the water on windless nights, and occasional shadowy figures appearing along the cliffs. Many believe these phenomena are the restless spirits of sailors who never made it home, still wandering the waters they once navigated, their presence bound to the lighthouse and the unforgiving sea it watches over. The lighthouse itself is a sturdy white tower with a lantern room that rises above the jagged cliffs and rocky shorelines of Stewart Island. Its location offers sweeping views of the surrounding channels and nearby islands. But the isolation also amplifies its haunting atmosphere. Dense coastal forests encroach on the cliffs, and waves crash relentlessly against the rocky outcrops below, producing a symphony of natural sounds that can easily be mistaken for footsteps, voices, or distant cries. Fog often blankets the area, muffling sound and shrouding the lighthouse in a ghostly haze, giving visitors the eerie impression that the structure stands alone in a world suspended between sea and sky. Even in clear conditions, the sense of isolation is profound. The remoteness of Stewart Island ensures that any disturbance, however minor, carries across the water with an unsettling clarity. Inside Turnpoint Lighthouse, the air is thick with the weight of history and the sense of presence that has long captivated both maritime historians and paranormal enthusiasts. The narrow spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks underfoot, yet many visitors report hearing additional footsteps when no one else is present. Cold spots appear without warning in hallways and observation areas, sending shivers through those exploring the lighthouse. Faint whispers drift through the corridors, unintelligible yet distinctly human, and doors have been known to open or close on their own. Shadowy figures have been seen pacing the stairwell or standing silently near the lantern room, watching the waters below, as though continuing the duties of keepers long departed. Many interpret these experiences as the lingering presence of former lighthouse keepers or sailors who perished in nearby shipwrecks, their spirits forever tied to the beacon and the perilous waters it guards. The history of Turnpoint Lighthouse is steeped in tales of perseverance and tragedy. Keepers were charged with maintaining the light through dense fog, storms, and harsh winter weather, often for months at a time without resupply. They polished lenses, trimmed wicks, and climbed the spiral staircases in near isolation to ensure that the beacon remained operational for passing ships. Despite their vigilance, countless vessels fell victim to hidden rocks and sudden currents, and some keepers themselves suffered accidents or illness while performing their duties. Local lore suggests that these souls never fully left, remaining bound to the lighthouse and the surrounding waters they once watched over, their restless energy lingering in the tower, along the cliffs, and across the channels of Stewart Island. The natural environment surrounding Turnpoint Lighthouse contributes to its reputation as a place of mystery and unease. The combination of dense forests, rocky cliffs, and the endless movement of the sea creates natural acoustics that can transform ordinary sounds into something uncanny. Waves crashing against rocks may resemble distant cries or shouts, while the wind through the trees often carries the illusion of whispered voices. Visitors walking the shore or exploring the lighthouse grounds frequently report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and a profound feeling of being observed. Even in the daytime, the interplay of isolation, natural beauty, and historical significance evokes the impression that the past is not only present but active, that those who perished here continue to linger, guiding, watching, and warning. Numerous accounts of ghostly activity have been documented at Turnpoint Lighthouse. Witnesses describe shadowy figures pacing the spiral staircase or standing silently in the lantern room, seemingly performing the duties of keepers long gone. Flickering lights in the tower have been reported even when the lighthouse is not operational, interpreted as spectral beacons illuminating the way for lost sailors. Some hear the mournful sound of a foghorn on calm nights when no ship is near, a sound that many believe to be the echo of souls trapped between sea and land. The cumulative effect of these stories has cemented Turnpoint Lighthouse's reputation as one of the most haunted maritime sites in Washington. Paranormal investigations at Turnpoint Lighthouse have recorded a variety of unexplained phenomena. Audio devices have captured whispers and faint voices. Infrared cameras have detected movement in unoccupied spaces, and investigators frequently report sudden drops in temperature in the lantern room and stairwells. While some occurrences may have natural explanations, the consistency and frequency of reports suggest a persistent energy tied to the lighthouse. Its long history and the people who devoted their lives to it. Despite its haunting reputation, Turnpoint Lighthouse continues to attract visitors who are drawn to its history, scenic views, and stories of the supernatural. Ghost enthusiasts are captivated by reports of apparitions, flickering lights, and strange sounds, while historians and photographers explore the site to document its architectural and maritime significance. Visitors often leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, and fleeting lights, adding to the enduring narrative of the lighthouse and its spectral inhabitants. Pathos Island Lighthouse, perched at the northernmost tip of the San Juan Islands, has guided mariners through the often fog-bound waters of the Pacific Northwest since its first illumination in 1893. The lighthouse, with its classic white tower and lantern room, sits atop rocky cliffs that drop sharply into the cold, churning waters below. Its location offers breathtaking views of the surrounding islands and channels. Yet this beauty is matched by a sense of isolation that has fueled stories of eerie occurrences for well over a century. Visitors frequently report ghostly apparitions, inexplicable sounds, and sudden cold spots, leading many to believe that the lighthouse is haunted by the spirits of former keepers and sailors lost to the treacherous waters around Pathos Island. The island itself is relatively small, covered in dense forests and surrounded by jagged cliffs and hidden coves. Fog often drifts in from the Strait of Juan de Fuca, enveloping the lighthouse in a ghostly haze and muting sounds from the sea and surrounding woods. The combination of isolation, dramatic scenery, and historical weight creates an atmosphere of uncanny tension, where the ordinary sounds of the wind, waves, and wildlife can take on a spectral quality. Even during daylight, many visitors describe a feeling of being watched, as if the past lingers alongside the present, invisible, yet tangible. Inside Peyto's Island Lighthouse, the air is thick with history and a sense of lingering presence. The spiral staircase leading to the lantern room creaks with each step, yet visitors often hear additional footsteps echoing in the hallways when no one else is present. Cold spots appear suddenly near windows or along corridors, sending shivers through those exploring the site. Faint whispers, unintelligible yet distinctly human, drift through rooms that are otherwise empty. Doors occasionally swing open or shut without explanation, and some witnesses have seen shadowy figures pacing the stairs or standing silently near the lantern room, gazing toward the waters below. Many believe these manifestations are the spirits of former keepers, dedicated men and women who spent long, isolated stretches maintaining the lighthouse and ensuring the safety of mariners in the surrounding waters. The history of Peyto's Island Lighthouse is one of duty, vigilance, and sometimes tragedy. Keepers were responsible for maintaining the light through thick fog, storms, and icy winters, often enduring long periods of solitude with minimal supplies. They polished lenses, trimmed wicks, and climbed the steep staircases to ensure the beacon remained operational every night. Despite their dedication, numerous shipwrecks occurred in the waters around Peyto's Island, and accidents, illness, or the harsh elements claimed the lives of several keepers over the years. Local legend suggests that some of these souls never left, remaining tied to the lighthouse and the surrounding waters, their presence still echoing in footsteps, whispers, and apparitions seen by modern visitors. The natural environment around the lighthouse amplifies its haunted reputation. Waves crash against the rocks below, sometimes sounding like distant cries or shouts, while the wind through the trees carries a soft, eerie whisper that can easily be mistaken for a voice. The dense forests and rugged cliffs create acoustics that distort and magnify ordinary sounds, enhancing the feeling that the lighthouse is alive with unseen activity. Visitors walking along the shoreline or exploring the lighthouse grounds often report sudden chills, fleeting shadows, or an unshakable sense of being watched. Even in the bright light of day, the combination of isolation, beauty, and history evokes the feeling that the past is present, that the spirits of keepers and sailors continue to roam the island and its rocky shores. Numerous accounts of ghostly activity have been associated with Peyto's Island Lighthouse. Some witnesses describe a figure in a white dress walking near the tower, only for it to vanish when approached. Others hear footsteps echoing through the hallways, yet no one else is there. Lights in the lantern room have been reported flickering when the lighthouse is inactive, and cold spots often appear unexpectedly, particularly near the tower and along staircases. These experiences have led many to believe that the lighthouse remains inhabited by those who once lived and worked there, or by the spirits of sailors who met their end in the surrounding waters, forever searching for guidance and safe passage. Paranormal investigations at Peyto's Island Lighthouse have recorded a range of unusual phenomena. Audio recordings have captured faint voices and whispers. Infrared cameras have detected movement in empty areas, and sudden drops in temperature have been noted in the lantern room and stairwells. While some events may have natural explanations, such as wind, structural settling, or wildlife, the consistency and frequency of reports suggest a lingering energy tied to the lighthouse's long history and the individuals who devoted their lives to it. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Peyto's Island Lighthouse remains an important historical landmark and a captivating destination for visitors. Its picturesque views of the San Juan Islands, combined with its maritime history and tales of the supernatural, attract ghost enthusiasts, historians, and photographers alike. Many leave with lasting impressions of shadows, sudden chills, and faint whispers, reinforcing the lighthouse's reputation as a site where history and mystery intersect. Lime Kill Point Lighthouse, perched on the western shore of San Juan Island, has served as a vital navigational beacon since its first illumination in 1919. Nestled within the scenic expanse of Lime Kill Point State Park, the lighthouse not only guides vessels safely through the often fog-laden waters of the Salish Sea, but also offers visitors one of the best vantage points in the world for observing orcas and other marine life. Yet, beneath the serene beauty of the lighthouse and the surrounding park lies a history tinged with tragedy and mystery, giving rise to numerous tales of supernatural occurrences. Visitors frequently report sudden drops in temperature, the distinct sensation of being watched, and glimpses of shadowy figures that seem to vanish when approached, all of which have cemented the lighthouse's reputation as a site of haunting. Among the many stories told over the decades, the most persistent legend centers on a lighthouse keeper who tragically died while on duty, his spirit said to remain, to this day, watching over both the lighthouse and those who venture near. The lighthouse itself is a classic white tower with a lantern room perched above rugged cliffs that plunge into the cold, churning waters of the Salish Sea. Its elevated position provides sweeping views across the surrounding waters and islands, making it a focal point not only for mariners but also for hikers and nature enthusiasts who flock to the state park. The combination of isolation, natural beauty, and historical significance contributes to a sense of both awe and unease. The cliffs and rocky shoreline create a natural acoustics that amplify the sound of the waves crashing below, the wind rustling through the evergreens, and the distant calls of seabirds, all of which can be mistaken for footsteps, voices, or the soft murmurs of unseen presences. On foggy days, the lighthouse appears to float within a gray, ethereal mist, heightening the eerie sensation that it exists as a threshold between the natural and the supernatural. Inside Lime Kill Point Lighthouse, the atmosphere is heavy with history and the lingering weight of past tragedies. Many visitors report feeling sudden chills or cold spots, particularly near the lantern room, accompanied by the sensation that they are being watched, even when no one else is present. Some have seen shadows move across the walls or glimpse figures near the windows overlooking the waters, only for them to vanish when approached. These experiences are often attributed to the restless spirit of the lighthouse keeper, who lost his life while performing his duties. Local accounts describe him as a dedicated man, committed to ensuring the light remained operational to protect ships navigating the dangerous waters, and whose untimely death left a lingering presence in the lighthouse he once tended. The story of this keeper is woven deeply into the lore of Lime Kill Point Lighthouse. According to tradition, he perished during a stormy night while attempting to secure the lantern during high winds. The tragedy left a profound impact on the local maritime community and park visitors, and many believe that his spirit has never left. Witnesses report that on particularly foggy or stormy evenings, a figure in the lantern room can sometimes be seen moving about as if performing the tasks of the lighthouse once more. The light may flicker unexpectedly, as though the keeper is still ensuring the beam cuts safely across the waters, guiding sailors away from the treacherous rocks below. Those who have encountered these manifestations often describe a deep sense of reverence, feeling the presence of a vigilant spirit committed to its protective role, even beyond death. The natural surroundings of the lighthouse add to its haunting reputation. Dense forested areas and rugged cliffs create shadows that shift unpredictably with the movement of the sun and the tide. The waves crashing against the rocks below produce sounds that can mimic human activity, while the wind through the pines carries subtle, whisper-like noises that can be difficult to distinguish from voices. Visitors exploring the park frequently report feeling an unexplainable chill, sensing unseen eyes watching them, or hearing soft, persistent footsteps behind them. Even during the day, when the park is bustling with tourists and hikers, the sensation of a watchful presence is tangible, as if the past and present coexist in the same space. Accounts of supernatural activity at Lime Kill Point Lighthouse are numerous and varied. Some visitors claim to have seen the spectral form of the keeper ascending the stairs, lantern in hand, while others have heard the sudden creak of the floorboards when no one else is present. Lights in the tower have been reported flickering inexplicably, especially during overcast or stormy conditions. Many also speak of cold drafts that appear and vanish without reason, lingering particularly near the upper floors and observation points. These phenomena contribute to the perception that the lighthouse is inhabited by the spirit of the keeper, tirelessly performing the duties he once took so seriously in life. Paranormal investigations at Limekiln Point Lighthouse have documented similar occurrences. Audio equipment has captured faint whispers and footsteps, while infrared cameras have recorded movement in rooms with no one present. Sudden temperature drops are frequently reported in the lantern room and along staircases. And occasional flickering lights have been noted during periods when the lighthouse is unlit. While some events can be explained by natural factors such as wind, acoustics, or structural settling, the regularity and consistency of these experiences have convinced many that something beyond the natural lingers within the lighthouse. Despite its reputation for hauntings, Limekiln Point Lighthouse continues to be a beloved destination for visitors. Its historical significance, stunning views of the Salish Sea, and proximity to orca-watching vantage points attract tourists, historians, and ghost enthusiasts alike. Those who visit often leave with an impression of the lighthouse as a place where history, nature, and the supernatural converge, carrying with them a sense of awe, unease, and lingering curiosity about the spirit that watches over the cliffs and waters. Point Wilson Lighthouse, standing stoically at the entrance to Admiralty Inlet in Port Townsend, Washington, has served as a crucial navigational aid for mariners since its first illumination in 1914. Perched on a narrow point that juts into the turbulent waters of Puget Sound, the lighthouse has long guided vessels safely through fog, storms, and shifting tides. Its isolated location, combined with the history of shipwrecks and maritime tragedies in the area, has created an atmosphere ripe for ghost stories and reports of supernatural activity. Over the years, visitors and local residents alike have described hearing the echo of footsteps within the tower when no one else is present, glimpsing shadowy figures moving silently through the halls, and sensing the unseen presence of those who once devoted their lives to keeping the lighthouse and its light operational. Many believe these apparitions are the spirits of former keepers, still maintaining a watch over the waters they patrolled in life. The lighthouse itself is a white tower, with a lantern room perched above the rocky shoreline, overlooking the channel where the waters of Admiralty Inlet merge into the larger expanse of Puget Sound. Its commanding view allows it to serve as both a beacon for sailors and a silent sentinel for the surrounding area. Visitors often describe the lighthouse as simultaneously serene and unnerving, with its stark white walls contrasting against the deep blues and grays of the surrounding waters, and the occasional fog rolling in to obscure the horizon in a ghostly haze. Even in daylight, the remote location and rugged surroundings evoke a sense of isolation, a feeling that is only heightened at night when the lighthouse stands alone against the darkness, its light sweeping methodically across the water. Inside Point Wilson Lighthouse, the atmosphere is imbued with a sense of history and lingering presence. The spiral staircases creak beneath footsteps, yet many visitors report hearing additional steps echoing through the tower when no one else is present. Cold spots descend unexpectedly, particularly near the upper floors and lantern room, and some witnesses claim to feel a subtle pressure, as if an unseen figure is standing close by. Shadows have been seen flitting along the walls, sometimes appearing to pause and observe before vanishing without a trace. The presence of these phenomena has been widely attributed to the spirits of former lighthouse keepers who remained devoted to their duties, even in death, ensuring that the beacon continues to protect those navigating the perilous waters below. The history of Point Wilson Lighthouse is one of dedication, resilience, and occasional tragedy. Lighthouse keepers were charged with the difficult and often dangerous task of maintaining the light through dense fog, high winds, and icy conditions. They spent long hours climbing the narrow stairs, polishing lenses, and trimming wicks to keep the lantern functioning reliably. Despite their vigilance, accidents and maritime disasters occurred frequently, and many keepers suffered injury or even death while performing their duties. Local legend holds that these individuals never fully left the lighthouse, their spirits bound to the tower and the surrounding waters, forever maintaining the watch they kept in life. The surrounding area of Point Wilson adds to its eerie reputation. The rocky shoreline, dense forests, and frequent fog create natural acoustics that transform ordinary sounds into something uncanny. Waves crashing against the rocks can resemble distant cries or footsteps, while the wind through the trees carries whispers that seem almost human. Visitors exploring the lighthouse grounds often describe feeling an unexplained chill or a sense of being observed, even when alone. The interplay of natural beauty and isolation, coupled with the weight of history, contributes to the persistent feeling that the past is present, that those who lived and worked at the lighthouse continued to roam its halls and watch the waters below. Reports of ghostly activity at Point Wilson Lighthouse are numerous. Some witnesses claim to have seen figures moving within the tower, pacing the spiral staircase, or standing silently near the lantern room. Lights occasionally flicker, even when the lighthouse is not operational, and cold spots appear suddenly, leaving visitors shivering and uneasy. The echo of footsteps on the upper floors has been consistently reported, often coinciding with moments when no one else is present. Many attribute these occurrences to the spirits of former keepers, dedicated men and women who remain vigilant in their spectral form, guiding and watching over the waters they once patrolled. Paranormal investigations at Point Wilson Lighthouse have corroborated many of these experiences. Audio devices have captured faint voices and whispers. Infrared cameras have recorded movement in empty rooms, and temperature anomalies have been noted, particularly in the lantern room and along the staircases. While some events can be explained by natural phenomena, such as wind, acoustics, or structural settling, the consistency and frequency of reports suggest a lingering energy tied to the lighthouse's long and sometimes tragic history. Despite its haunted reputation, Point Wilson Lighthouse continues to draw visitors who are captivated by its history, its dramatic views, and the possibility of encountering the supernatural. Tourists, historians, and ghost enthusiasts alike are drawn to the lighthouse to experience its atmosphere, learn about its maritime significance, and perhaps witness firsthand the stories passed down over generations. Many leave with an impression of the lighthouse as a place where the past and present coexist, a location where history is tangible and the unseen presence of former keepers remains ever watchful. As we conclude our journey through Washington's haunted lighthouses, we are reminded of the thin veil that separates the past from the present. These lighthouses, standing tall against the relentless tides and winds, hold within their walls stories of love, loss, and the enduring human spirit. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the eerie tales surrounding these beacons of light add an intriguing layer to their rich histories. So the next time you find yourself near one of these lighthouses, take a moment to listen to the whispers of the past, and perhaps you'll hear the faint echo of a ghostly foghorn guiding you safely home. Thank you for joining us on this spine-chilling journey through Washington's most haunted lighthouses. If you enjoyed these tales of the supernatural, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more eerie stories from the Pacific Northwest. Until next time, keep your lanterns lit and your minds open to the mysteries that lie just beyond the horizon.